Chapter 12:24. Just as Han Dong and the academician were about to find a secluded area to talk, suddenly, a powerful aura came from behind, forcing the two to stop. "Governor Wang, why are you here?" The academician immediately turned around to greet him. The person who came was the auctioneer, the former Minister of War and the current governor of the Demon Domain, Wang Xing. His twin daughters pushed his wheelchair here and came here right after the auction. Needless to say, he was here specifically for the academician. It is said that a genius has appeared in the Ministry of Works. Seeing you today, you are indeed extraordinary. Although our country's mechanical technology has reached a very high standard, it is still difficult to achieve more than 50% mechanical coverage, let alone 80% mechanical coverage like yours. That is why I am curious. A mechanical body like yours is not suitable for my cloth shoes. I did not expect you to give it to a friend. The academician reacted quickly and immediately placed a mechanical tentacle on Han Dong's shoulder. This is a zombie from the same floating island as me. Back then, both of us were selected to board the dragon boat. Due to my good test results on the dragon boat, I entered the imperial court under the recommendation of the dragon boat governor. He followed the conventional zombies' arrangements and lived a normal life in the corpse nation. I did not expect to meet you at the auction today. The same floating island can produce 2 black zombies? Unbelievable. I have already ordered someone to contact your servant about the transfer of the mine. It will be done soon. I wonder if the two of you are free. This old man would like to talk to you in private. Of course we are free. It is our honor to be invited by Governor Wang. The academician immediately agreed. Just come to my house and talk. Hearing this, Han Dong's gaze changed slightly. If it was a normal fate event, he would definitely receive a system notification at this time, triggering a side quest or hidden quest. According to the quest, Han Dong would be able to make better decisions. However, he was in a world that was extremely out of control. He did not receive any notifications. Wang Xing might have noticed the abnormality between the two. Of course, it was more likely out of admiration. After all, in the conversation just now, Governor Wang's gaze was fixed on the academician. Governor Wang's residence is not in the Ministry of War? Dealing with the matters of the Ministry of War is already very troublesome. I don't want to spend my rest time in there. What's more, I'm already old, and I'm not interested in political matters at all. Most of the matters in the barracks are left to my subordinates to handle. Otherwise, how could he have the time to attend the auction? My humble abode is simple and crude. Please forgive me if there is anything that is lacking in hospitality. Governor Wang Shiheng's residence was actually an ordinary bungalow hidden in the corner of the street, and there were no signs of metal modification. Make yourself at home. Go brew a pot of good tea. The female zombie hopped around and soon returned with a pot of tea. The so-called tea here was not the tea that humans drank in daily life. After all, zombies didn't need to eat or drink at all. Most zombies had a large number of openings in their esophagus and stomach sac. If they drank, they might seep out from somewhere and stain their clothes. The so-called tea was actually a type of tea oil. By soaking the best tea leaves in boiling corpse oil, the unpleasant odor of the corpse oil was removed, and the fragrance of the tea leaves was added. When Han Dong tasted the tea, a refreshing feeling filled his brain, and his mental state improved by a lot. Good tea. This is the tea leaves from the corpse fragrance house. Not only can it refresh the mind, but it can also purify the corpse oil itself. Haha, this old man is not good at getting close to people, so I'll just get straight to the point. This time, I specially came to find Manager Huang to ask you to do something for this old man. The doctor replied with a smile, Governor, you have a lot of talents under your command. What do you need my help with? Although my position is high, it doesn't have real power. My 2 old legs are crippled, and I no longer have the right to speak in the Ministry of War. Any of my private actions will be reported to the higher-ups, including the matter of me hosting the auction today. And what I want you to do, once I report it to the higher-ups, those guys will definitely use all kinds of methods to obstruct it. What's the matter? Go to the depths of the demon territory and obtain a special liquid for this old man. It is said that the liquid can revive the dead and has the effect of nurturing the soul. Is it possible to recover your legs? It can only be said that there is a possibility of recovery. This is information I obtained from a great demon, so it is most likely true. It is great that your legs can be recovered. If you report it to the Central Ministry of War, you should receive great support and assistance, right? Haha. As expected of a newcomer who just entered the Imperial Court. The relationship here is much more complicated than you think. Although my legs being crippled on the surface is related to me being trapped in the enemy's camp, there are some people in the Ministry of War who are secretly helping me. These guys won't give me any chance to turn the situation around. If I report it, not only will I not receive any help, but it will also attract a lot of trouble. Why does the governor believe me? Wait. Could it be that all of this was arranged by you? The doctor suddenly realized something. Haha. Something like the right to transfer the mineral veins to an auction is a bit out of place. In fact, that old man, the Minister of Works, is my closest friend in the Imperial Court. When I mentioned this matter to him, he immediately recommended someone to me, and it was you. You have only been in the Imperial Court for 100 days. Other than the Central Ministry of Works, you have not been to any other places, nor have you had any dealings with the outside world. Moreover, your strength is quite good. Since it is the minister's arrangement, I will naturally help with this matter. Naturally, I won't let you do it for nothing. As long as you can bring back a bottle of mysterious liquid hidden in the secret mountain for me. Not only material support, but also some assistance in power. As long as I can help, I will do my best. Of course, things are not that simple. According to the information in my hands, the mysterious liquid called moon water is hidden in the depths of the demon territory, about 1,000 miles away from the barrack. You should also know that the deeper you go into the demon territory, the higher the probability of encountering a big demon. There is no need to rush this matter. You can spend several months slowly preparing and gathering a group of trustworthy and powerful people. When he said this, Han Dong's words went straight to the doctor's brain. The doctor immediately responded, "Governor, no need to prepare, we can set out now. The powerful people have been found." Saying this, the doctor, Governor Wang, and his twin daughters looked at Han Dong at the same time. Governor Wang said with a smile, "I have taken your old friend, the Black Zombie, into consideration. I have also checked his background, and he has nothing to do with the Imperial Court. However, only a Black Zombie, I am afraid it is far from enough. No, my friend is much stronger than me." The doctor was a special zombie with a mechanical body coverage of 80% and achieved mechanical ascension. As soon as these words came out, Governor Wang immediately became interested. "Stronger than you? Young man, do you want to try?" Chapter 12:25. Wang Xing was not proficient in the observation technique. In his eyes, the young man was only emitting a slightly stronger aura than the other black zombies. He did not notice how powerful he was. Moreover, when Wang Xing saw that this young man was very close to Manager Huang in the Gathering of 100 Demons, he immediately used the secret passage to pull up all the information related to the young man. He was indeed born on the same floating island as Manager Huang. He was arranged to live in the oil district and did not have any direct contact with the Imperial Court. The only indirect contact was when he worked for a Long Jing. This alchemist had died not long ago, and the young man himself did not have a name in the Imperial Court. It was incredible that he could condense a core in 100 days without much external help. Now that he said this, Wang Xing also wanted to see what this young man was capable of. "Come on. Don't worry about my legs. Even without these legs, there are not many people in the entire barracks who are my opponent. Han Dong immediately put down the teacup in his hand and got up from his seat. He said with an embarrassed face, I'm actually not that powerful. What I practice is a self-protection technique. I'm not good at attacking. Since you're not good at attacking, let this old man take the initiative to test you." The wheelchair rolled in front of Han Dong at a relatively slow speed. Sitting in the wheelchair, Wang Xing, who looked like a rotten corpse, threw a punch at an even slower speed. It seemed slow, seemed weak, and seemed to throw this punch with an arm as thin as a skeleton. But in the special vision obtained by the doctor through the mechanical mask and the brain, what he observed was a terrifying punch. A heavy corpse aura was attached to the fist, which caused it to move extremely slowly. At the same time, the doctor saw that Han Dong had no intention of dodging. Strange. According to the Overlord's demon eye, he should have seen through the essence of this punch. Why didn't he dodge? After a while, the slow fist and Han Dong's body were stuck together. It was like throwing a huge rock into a lake. However, the lake was bigger than the rock. Although a lot of water splashed on the shore, it did not have much effect on the lake itself. Reality. Boom. A loud noise echoed in the residence. The governor's private residence was built with special wood to limit the loud noise to the room. Even so, the building was shaking slightly. However, Han Dong, who was hit by such a heavy punch, was stunned. His body rotated at high speed in midair, and in this way, he completed the dissipating force. At the end of the spin, his body landed firmly on the ground, only taking a step back with his right foot. This scene not only stunned the doctor and Wang Xing, who were sitting at the side, but also the twins. They knew very well how powerful their father's punch was. It had once broken the arm of a great demon. Even if both of his legs were crippled and his strength was reduced, it was still too exaggerated to rely on his physical body to receive this punch. Wang Shiheng's expression changed drastically. He immediately reached out to touch Han Dong's zombie body and felt the texture of water. "What you are practicing is the Floating Corpse Internal Sutra created by Grand Secretary Du Zhijing." "Exactly. How did you do it?" "This book is terribly difficult to practice. It was once thought that Grand Secretary Du didn't find a suitable disciple and didn't want to spread it out. It was a book of experience that he created at his own will rather than a collection of zombies. In fact, as long as you can calm down and carefully read all the contents of the first chapter, you can separate each piece of information and combine it with the later practice content. You will be like a fish in water. Your practice should be faster than other collections of zombies." What a genius! In this way, the cloth shoes that accompany me can play the greatest role on your feet. If I were still the Minister of War, I would definitely recruit you and train you as a confidant. However, the place you are going to is extremely dangerous. It is best to call more people. Since Han Dong had shown his strength, he directly talked to the governor on behalf of the doctor. "Please rest assured, Governor. This operation is to seize the moon water, not to kill a great demon. I am practicing the Floating Corpse Internal Sutra. It should be very easy to get out of the demon cave quickly. It will be easier to succeed if there are fewer people." Through a series of conversations just now, Han Dong had roughly guessed Governor Wang's identity and status. This governor's request had been set by Han Dong as a side mission that could greatly increase the character's friendliness. Once completed, it would greatly help Han Dong to touch the origin of the world. Governor Wang pondered for a while and took out a long hidden map and a special bottle from his pocket. The location of the moon water is marked on this. According to the demon's description, the moon water exists in a strange mountain. When you reach the location marked on the map, you will naturally understand which is the strange mountain. If you can really go deep and find the moon water that can bring the dead back to life, fill the bottle and bring it back to me. Because there are people above watching my every move, it is not convenient for me to send you out of the city directly. I can only provide some financial support. This is fine. We can prepare for leaving the city ourselves. Have a safe trip. Not long after Han Dong left the governor's private residence, he covered his stomach with one hand and put the other hand on the doctor's shoulder. Wah! It hurts. The punch just now did not completely dissipate the force. There was still a small part of the impact that hit the body. Although the power of Governor Wang's punch was one of the best among the black zombies, if thrown into the hybrid demon world, it should not be comparable to the seventh prime, the competitive hopper. It seems that I am still far from it. The mechanical tentacles on the doctor's shoulder immediately examined and treated Han Dong's abdomen. To be able to take this punch head-on is already very strong, as expected of a lord. Without the support of the imperial court, you can develop to this extent alone. When Master returns to the original world and carries out the true door opening, you will definitely be on par with the Prime. I hope so. That group of freaks is also growing. Mad Devil Green may be about to create a myth. By the way, Doctor, there is still a very important thing I haven't asked you. This is related to our follow-up actions. As he spoke, Han Dong took advantage of the fact that the doctor was treating him and quietly put his right hand near the back of the doctor's head. What question? How did you deal with the corpse goo in your head? The doctor did not answer verbally. Instead, he directly opened the entire skull, exposing the fresh brain in front of Han Dong's eyes. Through the sulcus, he could vaguely see an earthworm-like corpse goo being restrained in the doctor's brain. It was firmly fixed through the cranial nerve tentacles. It has been dealt with. The corpse goo is restrained by me and will not have any effect on my brain. The secret department's inspection of the corpse goo is only to check whether it exists in the cerebral area. As long as it is controlled at the brain level, it is not a problem for me. As expected of you. While Han Dong gave a thumbs up, his other right hand quietly reached for the back of the doctor's head and covered the skull. There is no time to lose. Prepare the vehicle and enough corpse oil. Let's go. Okay. Chapter 12:26. Barracks, military prison inside a dome-shaped building made entirely of metal. A group of officials with important positions in the Ministry of War gathered here. Even some unranked decurions and centurions were gathered here to relax. After all, life in the barracks was really leisurely. They gathered in groups of 3 to 5 in a certain private room and drank corpse oil that emitted a rich fragrance together. Or they spent a lot of money in the high-rise gambling area. Or they watched the monster fighting competition at the bottom of the building. Suddenly, a midget zombie the size of a child with agile movements entered the building from the back door and knocked on a special door with the Ministry of War's emblem. Through the paper door, one could see a man and a woman having fun in a room shrouded in clouds. Before the midget at the door could speak, a voice came from inside. Zhu-Wen, what's the hurry? Don't you know that today is an important day for me to gather qi? Sir, when I was in charge of the surveillance operation of the auction today, I accidentally discovered Wang Shiheng's abnormal movements. Creak. The door opened from inside. Waves of liquid-like corpse fragrance flowed out from the ground until a large bed in the room was revealed. Female zombies with pretty faces and skin that was filled with flesh rouge were lying on the body of a muscular zombie. Tell me the details, yes? Zhu-Wen told him the details of the matter. This person immediately pushed away all the female zombies leaning on him. He rolled up some tobacco with strange effects on the table with a mind-cleansing talisman, dipped it in a little corpse oil, and took a deep breath. He pulled all his thoughts back to his mind and condensed them. You're saying that the old man Wang Xing secretly met with a powerful manager in the Ministry of Works, and this manager is now showing signs of leaving the city? That's right. He's also bringing along a black zombie who has very little information and has nothing to do with the imperial court. Minister Pang of the Ministry of Works and Wang Xing are old friends. Ever since Wang Xing stepped down, the two of them have been in contact with each other. I didn't expect them to contact each other at this time. We can't be careless about this matter. I'll handle it personally. We can't give that old man Wang Xing any chance to turn things around. Moreover, if we can obtain some of his private dealings through this matter, we might be able to use this to push him down from his position as governor. In this way, the minister will definitely be happy and recommend me. Go and call Chong Lian, the flying knife rat, and Su Jiwei, the stone mountain. After I change my clothes, I'll set off immediately. Of course, Zhuwan, you'll have to follow me. When the dwarf zombie heard the two titles mentioned by his master, sweat started to seep out of his forehead. These two were once executioners in the Central Ministry of War and were selected as the 36 Heavenly Stars, ranked 18 and 26 respectively. However, due to his ferocious and brutal nature, he was eliminated in the selection competition for the embroidered uniform guard and was demoted to the barracks. When he came to the barracks, he was still the executioner. Very few people can deal with them properly. Don't be afraid. Just say that there are experts for them to kill. These two fellows will naturally be tempted. 36 Big Dipper is an honorary title jointly established by the Central Imperial Court and the 6 ministries. An internal selection is held every 5 years. On the other side, because a doctor could directly embezzle public funds, he could directly buy a Ferrari-level coffin car in the barrack. It had a brand new steam power system, and the most important thing was that it supported external control. In other words, the mechanical tentacles that grew out of the doctor's body could be connected to the coffin to achieve control, driving, and energy supply. As long as the doctor had enough energy, the coffin car could run. As for Han Dong's follower, Zhang Xiliang, when he heard that he had to go deep into the demon territory and had to reach a depth of thousands of miles, he was so scared that he couldn't say a word on the spot. But in the end, he gritted his teeth and asked to go together. He was a special demon zombie. Maybe he could use this opportunity to condense his core in one go. If he gave up such an opportunity, he estimated that Mr. Han would also give up on him. Everything was ready. They set off. This kind of high-level coffin car had different compartments. Han Dong and the doctor lay in a spacious and comfortable main compartment, while Zhang Xiliang curled up in a small compartment to rest. It was completely soundproof. Doctor, let's take a detour. We'll go to this place first. I'm going to pick up 2 friends. Because there was an outsider like Zhang Xiliang, the doctor was a little unhappy, but now there were 2 more people. Lord, the increase in weight will increase the energy consumption of the coffin car. Is there a need to bring these 2 people? If it was just a green zombie or a very normal black zombie, like you said, it would be too noisy to obtain the moon water. Han Dong glanced at the doctor beside him. He felt that living in the Destiny world had made the doctor a little more rebellious. Relax, these 2 friends are quite good. Moreover, their functions will be very important for us to go deep into the demon territory. Governor Wang should be an important part of the main storyline, or even a hidden storyline. We can use this to touch the foundation of the court. After all, Doctor, with your current position, you can't go to the royal palace. So you can't know the secrets of the court, right? Yes, I don't even have a chance to meet the emperor. I'll listen to the Lord's arrangements. Very quickly. According to Han Dong's orders, the coffin car stopped in a ravine in the mountains. In front of them was a demon cave covered in a layer of ice. When the doctor got out of the car, he was shocked by the layer of ice that covered the demon cave. This is not a naturally formed layer of ice. Is it the effect of the corpse chi mutation? It actually froze so many demons to death and froze the entire demon cave. What a terrifying strength. Lord, what kind of person lives here? Follow me in and you'll know. Han Dong waved his hand to Zhang Xiliang behind him, and the latter immediately followed him. Not long after Han Dong's group entered the cave, a jet-black coffin car followed closely behind. The coffin lid opened. 4 figures immediately landed in front of the demon cave. What are these fellows doing here? The dwarf zombie touched the ice at the entrance of the demon cave. He was originally the secret agent, so he suddenly thought of something. Icy corpse chi, foreign fugitives. Could it be that one of the 72 fiends, Frozen Bones Luo Gaoqing, is hiding in this cave? Hearing this, the person in charge of this operation was a little unhappy. Could it be that they secretly communicated with Wang Xing to capture the fugitive? Although the head of such a serious criminal is valuable, there is no need to let the talents of the Ministry of Works take the risk, right? If that's the case, we really made a wasted trip. Of course, since we asked the executioner to come out, we naturally need to bring back the head. This sentence scared the dwarf stiff to the point that it trembled. Sir, what you said makes sense. There is no need to let the talents of the Ministry of Works take the risk. Wang Xing doesn't need to do such a boring thing. Why don't we wait and see what the situation is before making a decision? Then let's wait. Chapter 12:27. When he entered the demon cave again, the feeling was somewhat different from before. The coldness overflowing from the depths was even more piercing. Did something happen? Don't tell me that Frozen Bones fellow. Han Dong hurriedly quickened his pace and came to the deepest compartment. However, the scene in front of him was somewhat unexpected. The white-haired Frozen Bones, Luo Gaoqing, was lying on his own ice coffin. His back was full of various silver needles, and some of the silver needles were almost completely black. The key acupuncture points used larger silver needles combined with medicine to introduce a viscous medicine into the body. As for Chen Xining, she was opening her coat and mechanical body cavity. Through the internal precision device, she was grinding some kind of powder. Don't come in. I have a thunder talisman at the door. Following Chen Xining's warning, Han Dong could only stand at the door and quietly observe this strange scene. The Taoist priest was actually performing some kind of healing for the zombie, not to mention that the two were hostile a few days ago. Chen Xining's voice with a hint of explanation came. Some of the injuries Luo Gaoqing suffered during his escape have accumulated in the body. Until now, it has not been expelled normally and has formed a precipitate substance. During the period of hiding in the demon cave, the important trachea in the body has been seriously blocked, causing the transportation of the corpse to be obstructed. Once it can be discharged, the strength can be improved. No wonder the temperature in the cave has dropped again. This was a good thing. Han Dong patiently waited outside the door. At the same time, he briefly described the experience of this period of time to the doctor, and the plan about the demons. What? The Lord intends to gather all the demons to directly fight against the imperial court. Although I haven't met the emperor, I am very clear about one thing. Although most of us officials can live in the imperial city and are regarded as the so-called imperial court officials, in essence, more than 90% of the officials have not met the emperor and have not stepped half a step into the imperial palace. They don't even know what the inside of the imperial palace is like. Moreover, I am afraid that the Lord can't fight against the strength of the current emperor. Han Dong's face was small. His palm fell on the doctor's skull and gently tapped. Why are you so nervous? Who said I want to revolt? You have a rebellious heart. Believe it or not, I will report you. Doctor, when did your vision become so narrow? I'm just thinking according to the Lord's usual style of doing things. After all, during the expedition, the Lord had said that he would go to Perugia's palace to take a look, but in the end, he had wiped them out. His actions in Toad Hall were even more excessive. Not only did he fuse with the land deed, he even turned the feudal lord into a power bank. It's not the same. In the current world, there is a mythical level. Before I fully understand the nature of the world, I will not act rashly. They did not chat for long. The lightning talisman on the door was removed. Frozen Bones Luo Gaoqing's treatment had been completed. His entire body had become more refreshed, and he looked like a white-haired, skinny middle-aged man who was glowing with vigor. However, out of vigilance, Luo Gaoqing still looked at the doctor with fear in his eyes. He had never seen a zombie with such a high mechanical body. Even if the internal injuries were removed, he was not confident that he could face the zombie head-on. "Don't be nervous. This is my old friend." Han Dong briefly described what had happened and sincerely invited the two of them to join the mission given by Governor Wang Xiying. Chen Xining held the cigarette in her mouth and didn't care at all. "I have now been recognized as dead by the imperial court. I can't go anywhere. Since Wang Xiying is the path, it's not bad to go through it. Even if I can't go back, I can have a place to stay." Luo Gaoqing gave a request. "Okay, I'll go with you. If things can be done smoothly, I hope to get a perfect disguise identity to let me live in the corpse kingdom." "No problem at all, and I thought so. However, there is a small problem in front of us. When we came here, we seemed to be followed." "Followed? What happened?" Luo Gaoqing, who had been hunted for a long time, was very nervous. "Don't worry, they are not here to catch you. According to some information given by Governor Wang Xiying, there is a high probability that they are from the Ministry of War. They want to stop Wang Xiying from taking some personal actions. It's that simple. Ministry of War." As long as it was not the Ministry of Justice, Luo Gaoqing was not too nervous. "How about I lure them in and deal with them in the depths of the demon cave? It's very risky. The people sent to deal with Wang Xiying must be special. There is a high probability that they won't chase in. They might even send a signal for help to the barracks because of the existence of a felon like you." "Then what should we do?" "There is only one entrance and exit to the demon cave. Once we go out, we will definitely encounter them. Won't the ending be the same?" Han Dong shook his finger. "It's different because I am here. What I am going to do next, you'd better turn your head, otherwise it will be very uncomfortable." Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, a tentacle suddenly burst out from the end of the shaking finger, translucent, starry, shining. When Luo Gaoqing, who had not had time to turn his head, caught a glimpse of this tentacle by chance, a strong sense of dizziness hit his brain. He had a feeling that his thoughts were going to be taken to the starry sky. If he stared at it for a long time, it might cause his consciousness to leave his body and move toward the starry sky. His body might turn into a ball of bubbles. Han Dong immediately drew a void formation on the ground. He had long considered that he would be targeted, so he left a void guidance mark on the surface of the coffin in advance. "Come in." Zhang Shiliang, who had experience in teleportation in advance, was very active in this kind of thing. He was the first to enter the circle. After seeing Han Dong and the doctor enter, Chen Xining and Luo Gaoqing slowly stepped into this strange formation that they had never seen before. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, the five of them were already in different compartments of the coffin. The mechanical tentacle on the doctor's shoulder also conveniently connected to its control groove. It moved forward toward the demon territory with the greatest horsepower. The four people lurking in different positions outside the cave had not yet reacted to what was going on when the target's carriage had already disappeared from their sight. There was no time to think at all. Everyone immediately got on the carriage. The stranger things are, the more it proves that the old guy Wang Xiying is up to no good. This time, we must pull him down from the position of governor. Increase the horsepower. We must catch up with them. It will be troublesome if they run away. Yes, sir. The dwarf zombie had a look of relief. Fortunately, things had developed this way. Otherwise, his head would have been gone. On the other side, Han Dong reached out and touched the back of the doctor's head. Slow down, don't let them lose us. Since these guys have already targeted us, it's better to get rid of them. When we've gone a certain distance, we'll end it with them. It just so happens that I want to see how capable you are, Doctor. Don't worry, this mechanical body of mine is specially equipped with combat equipment. It may not be as good as the Overlord's, but it's definitely not much worse. So confident? I look forward to your performance. Chapter 12:28. While retreating from the ice cave, Han Dong immediately caught sight of 4 figures in the nearby area. One of them was an extremely short and cowardly green zombie. The other 3 were somewhat special. Their whole body exuded a rich, black corpse gas. Through some kind of technique, they compressed the corpse gas on the surface of their body, forming an airtight protective layer. While covering their breath, they also blocked the main characteristics of their body. Because the coffin carriage was extremely fast, Han Dong didn't have time to observe it carefully. He could only see the general outline. 2 of them were relatively large, but one was strong and felt like something was protruding from the surface of his body, while the other was very sturdy. As for the last person, he had a more exaggerated proportion of tall and thin, and he carried a very strange, sickle-shaped weapon. In short, they were not simple characters. If thrown into the hybrid demon world, they would definitely be a lord. According to Master's description, they must be experts from the Ministry of War. Because of their excellent performance, they learned a kind of corpse collection. Auxiliary chi, that is controlled by the Ministry of War. It can improve the control of corpse gas. As you said, they can cover the surface of their body with dense corpse gas, forming a corpse membrane that can be used to hide their breath and appearance. It is often used for activities in the demon realm or to carry out some secret military activities. Chi control? It sounds very good. Try to keep one alive later. Lord, when do you plan to do it? We have already traveled more than 30 miles. It should be about time. A little deeper. Try to choose a more open plain area. If they accidentally use some kind of trump card to escape and bring the news back to the barracks, everything will be in vain. Okay, listen to the Lord's arrangement. During the time when the coffin carriage was chasing, Han Dong also observed the environment of the demon realm. It was really not much different from the features of the earth. Due to the problem of corpse transformation and floating, most of the areas of the demon realm were in a primitive state. Occasionally, there were some ruins of towns and villages with strange monsters inside. The vegetation coverage in some areas was also quite exaggerated. There were even some vegetation that Han Dong had never seen before. It should be related to the existence of demon. After traveling for a long time, he still didn't hear any instructions from Han Dong. At this time, the coffin carriage drove out of the forest and came to a wasteland. A strange scene appeared in front of them. An endless mountain range that extended to both sides completely blocked the road. The mountain range was only about 1,000 meters away from the coffin. The mountain range itself was also very interesting. There was no path up the mountain. It was as if it had been cut off by a blade. The entire body of the mountain was 90 degrees vertical, but the height was more than 500 meters. It was as if some deity had built a stairway to the world here, using this method to forcibly raise the height of the terrain by several hundred meters. My lord, we're about to reach the Crouching Dragon Range. Due to the terrain, we need to leave the carriage at the foot of the mountain and climb up. When will we get rid of our pursuers? What a spectacle! Were they pursuers? If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten. Let's settle it here. Drive the coffin directly under the mountain and pretend to be desperate to lure them over. All right. His current position was already 600 miles away from the barrack. The Ministry of War personnel who had been chasing after them had long lost their patience. Furthermore, all of the reserve fuel had been used up. They could only snatch the coffins or directly squeeze the other party into corpse oil. Damn it! They actually chased us all the way to the Crouching Dragon Range. When we return, we must prepare an internal vehicle with the highest performance. Zhuwen replied in a trembling voice, "My lord. Your Black Death coffin is custom-made. It already has the highest performance. Then why can't they catch up? I don't know. Perhaps it has something to do with the Ministry of Works personnel who have a high mechanical body. Forget it. The Crouching Dragon range is thousands of miles across. Their vehicle can't be used. First, ask them what they want to do so deep. Try to find out as much as possible about the secret dealings between Wang Xing and the Ministry of Work. Then, kill them all. If they die in this place, no one will be able to find out." "All right." Creak. The vehicle stopped in front of a completely vertical mountain wall and could not continue forward. Click. Open the coffin. This type of vehicle was used to carry zombies. The way to get out of the vehicle was similar to climbing out of a coffin. One had to open the top of the coffin. Han Dong slowly sat up and jumped to the ground. He maintained the conventional arms in front of him, body straight posture. The doctor revealed his scorpion-like lower body and crawled out of the coffin. He took the initiative to stand in front of Han Dong. After all, a series of conversations were needed before the battle. The others temporarily hid in the coffin. At this time, the black coffin that was chasing behind quickly drove over. Before the vehicle completely stopped, the coffin lid had already bounced off. Whoosh whoosh. 3 black silhouettes emitting powerful auras flew out and landed 5 meters away from each other. At the same time, there was a relatively timid dwarf at the back. This time, he could clearly see the appearance of this group of people. The leading zombie had an extremely impressive physique. Han Dong had seen such a physique before on the dragon boat. It was an exaggerated physique that was extraordinary and could only be seen in comic. Keywords: muscular, a huge, a dark, iron ring. Compared to other zombies, the color of his skin was 2 levels darker. It was extremely dark. His entire body was covered with small iron rings. Their purpose was unknown. As for the 2 people on his left and right, they also had their own characteristic. They were definitely not simple people. One of them was thin and tall. In terms of height, he was even a head taller than the leader, who had an exaggerated physique. He had bandages wrapped around his face, revealing only 2 eyes. He carried a pair of strange hook and sickle talisman weapons on his back, giving people an extremely dangerous feeling. The other person was like a dead object. When he appeared, he maintained a stillness. His large square face coupled with a large and round body gave people an extremely stable feeling. The doctor had already captured the other party's characteristics through the mask and obtained the answer through the Imperial Court database in his brain. He sent a voice transmission to Han Dong. "The leader is the current second-in-command of the barracks, Black Iron Feng Kuei. Beside him is the Ministry of War's beheading weapon, the original 36 Heavenly Spirits, Flying Knife Rat, Chong Lian and Stone Mountain Su Jiwei. It's a little troublesome." As soon as the doctor finished the voice transmission, the other party also began to speak. "We have a hard time chasing after you, Manager Huang. It's the first time we meet, so let me introduce myself. Feng Kuei from the Corpse Country Square, the current commander of the barracks. These 2, Chong Lian and Su Jiwei, are my right-hand men. We received news that Manager Huang used the auction as an excuse to secretly go to the demon realm and collude with the serious criminal, Luo Gaoqing. This matter is of great importance, so I decided to deal with it personally." He didn't wait for the doctor to respond with polite words. Han Dong complained with a disappointed face. "Why are you officials so wishy-washy, and like to say a lot of useless nonsense? Don't we both want to crush each other into corpse oil? No one will know if we do it here, so what are you afraid of? Seriously, you're so dark and big, but you do things like a sissy. What a waste." Han Dong's swan-style speech broke the other party's defense on the spot. The corpse energy surged like a tide. Chapter 12:29. The world of Tomb had a unique growth system, out of control, and the key to it was the corpse energy. Whether it was the color, concentration, or form of the gas in the pill field, it represented the change in level. Or the aura on the surface of the body, which represented the zombie's attributes, such as cold, thick, hot, and sharp. Corpse energy could often determine most of a zombie's attribute. Similarly, when a zombie reached a certain level, it could also form a domain with corpse energy. Crouching Dragon Mountain at the bottom of the Hengduan mountain cliff, which was structured like the staircase of the world. Dense energy swept through Han Dong's body, and even his sleeves were fluttering wildly. The domain was formed. The originally barren yellow soil was dyed black, and the ground felt like hard leather when stepped on. At the same time, there were a large number of iron rings penetrating the ground. The domain didn't cause any direct damage or disruption, so it should be an amplification effect. Not bad. It's indeed much more powerful than ordinary black zombies. The exaggerated physique was like a comic character, and the explosive speed bypassed the doctor and went straight for Han Dong, the lowest zombie. At this moment, the temperature plummeted. A lot of ice crystals appeared in the air. A gust of cold air suddenly overflowed from the side of the coffin, forming a crystal-clear ice wall in front of Han Dong, which was at least 2 meters thick. The black shadow, whose path was blocked by the ice wall, did not slow down at all. Colluding with a felon, you deserve to die. Feng Kuei, the second in command of the Demon Realm Barrack. It could be said that he was the direct contact sent by the Central Ministry of War to monitor Wang Xing. To be able to gain the trust of the current minister and take on such a heavy responsibility, he was naturally very capable. The corpse collection he practiced could not be bought on the market. It was a special product of the Ministry of War, the 18th layer scripture. It belonged to the strength training category like the indestructible corpse scripture, but the degree of precision was higher, and the difficulty of cultivation also increased exponentially. As the name suggested, it required 18 rounds of deep body training. Each round of body training would make the meat more refined, and correspondingly, the meat would be compressed and black rotten. This made the surface look darker. When it reached the completion of the 18th layer, the surface would show a pure black color, which was also called black meat. As for the iron rings on Feng Kuei's body, they were tailor-made small talisman weapons by the Ministry of War. Together with the supplementary scripture of the 18th layer scripture, it could perfectly integrate with his ability system. Facing the ice wall in front of him, he didn't show the slightest bit of fear. He clenched his fists tightly. The moment he tightened his muscles, the iron rings that covered his black flesh began to vibrate rhythmically. Ding ding ding. Resonance ding ding ding. The large iron rings that grew out of the black meat domain actually started to vibrate at the same frequency. Bang. The ice wall that was imbued with extremely cold corpse energy was easily broken by the fist, and its power was only reduced by 10%. This startled the frozen bones lying in the coffin. Han Dong, on the other hand, commented without changing his expression. "You're very strong. The effect of the domain should be something like armor break or damage increase, right?" However, even though Han Dong looked calm, the tentacles in his brain had already begun to weave his body, imitating a prisoner in his head. Die! A punch landed on Han Dong's body. According to common sense, the resonance produced by the iron ring would weaken the zombies, a hardness to a large extent. Combined with the fist force of the black flesh forging body, it was enough to instantly tear the zombie's body apart like a balloon. However, when the fist landed on Han Dong's body, the impact changed. The iron rings, which were originally very effective at breaking through defenses, seemed to have fallen into a pool of water and disappeared without a trace. Just as Feng Kuei was somewhat puzzled as to why his domain and the iron rings were ineffective, boom! A wave of air spread out, and Han Dong was sent flying by the punch. Feng Kuei, who stood in place, was even more puzzled. His ability should not have sent the enemy flying. The reason why he chose to cultivate the 18 levels sutra was because he wanted to kill the enemy efficiently. This was the effect of the zombie collection on the body. His inner strength combined with the iron rings could directly crush the enemy. What's going on? The impact just now was so strange. Why did it feel like I hit water? When Feng Kuei realized something and looked forward again, the target that was sent flying was no longer in his field of vision. There were no signs of impact on the rock wall several meters away. At this moment, a contemptuous voice came from beside him. Does your brain short-circuit when you encounter something you can't understand? This is a bad habit. If I hadn't told Manager Huang not to attack, you would have been dead by now, right? He looked toward the source of the voice. The young zombie that was sent flying was sitting on top of the coffin with a leisurely look on his face. At this moment, Han Dong waved at the doctor again. Manager Huang, you can take on 4 by yourself. Is there a problem? The large mechanical arm on the doctor's shoulder shook slightly, and a low voice came from under the built-in mask. If I want to win, I should be able to barely win. However, it will be difficult to kill all of them. I will definitely let 1 or 2 escape. Han Dong put his finger on his chin and looked like he was thinking seriously. Indeed, it will be troublesome if they escape. I am responsible for watching the battle. The others can come together. After saying that, 3 figures immediately flashed out of the coffin. Although the provocation made the people from the Ministry of War furious, they were still quite surprised when they saw the others. Especially one of the women. Chen Fengshi, your obituary has been issued by the Imperial Court. How can you still be alive? Feng Kuei was shocked. The obituary issued by the Imperial Court could not be fake, and it must have been confirmed. Alchemists were special personnel of the Ministry of War, and Chen Xining, who was an alchemist of Longjing, had a very high status. She had interacted with Feng Kuei many times, and even their official positions were almost the same. As expected, what kind of conspiracy are you planning? It must be that old thing Wang Xing who is playing tricks. For a time, it immediately became a 4-on-4 situation, except for Han Dong. Han Dong also instructed Zhang Xiliang that he only needed to deal with the dwarf behind the other party. Ding 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 as the iron rings on Feng Kuei's body trembled, the battle was about to begin. Dr. vs. Eben Feng Kuei Frozen Bones Luo Gaoqing vs. Flying Knife Rat Chong Lianstone Mountain Su Jiwei vs. Alchemist Chen Xining. At the moment of the battle, the doctor used some kind of technology to combine with the corpse he cultivated to form a force field that faintly suppressed Feng Kuei, the second in command of the barrack. Feng Kuei had never seen all kinds of strange mechanical methods before, and it was quite difficult to deal with them. The doctor is really not bad. However, the difference in strength between the teams is not big. It might take a long time to fight like this. Han Dong did not directly participate in the battle. Instead, he did something unbelievable. Relying on the floating effect given by the floating corpse internal sutra, his body slowly floated up and flew towards the top of the Hengduan Mountains. There was one thing that Han Dong was very concerned about. Just as the coffin stopped at the bottom of the cliff, Han Dong suddenly had an uncomfortable feeling. He couldn't tell exactly what it was, but he felt a little stuffy in his heart. The depths of the demon territory are extremely dangerous. Governor Wang has mentioned this many times. I think he lost his leg in the demon territory. It's better to be safe. The doctor will definitely be able to hold them back. After floating up a full 600 meters, he finally reached the top of the cliff. Above him was an unusually dense forest. He landed at the edge of the forest. His tentacles were close to the ground. His eyes were open. His perception was fully opened. Buzz. Some kind of signal was sent directly to Han Dong's mind, scaring the latter. Chapter 1230. Did he change the map for me? His perception domains spread out like ripples, and hundreds of auras were fed back before he was more than 1,000 meters away. The deeper he went, the denser the aura was. There were even auras of many great demons mixed in. This kind of density was 100 times, or even 1,000 times, different from the demon territory Han Dong had passed through along the way. The sudden increase of demons was definitely not a normal phenomenon. Han Dong was sure that this was closely related to the Hengduan mountain range. It was as if this place belonged to a natural boundary. Thinking of this, Han Dong immediately got up and walked towards the edge of the cliff. During this time, he accidentally found a stone tablet standing hundreds of meters away. He read the words on it through the magic eye. Broken Dragon Cliff. Han Dong suddenly thought of something and immediately used the floating corpse internal sutra to continue to float upwards. He floated about 200 meters up and looked down at the world again. It's not a natural mountain range at all, nor is it my imaginary world staircase, but a large piece of the earth has been dug out, although Han Dong could not see the whole picture of dug out. But according to the Broken Dragon Cliff, it extended infinitely to both sides with a certain arc. He was basically sure that it was not that the terrain was higher as they walked, but that the corresponding land at the bottom of the corpse kingdom had been dug out. If that's the case, that is to say, the more than 600 miles from the barracks to the Broken Dragon Cliff belongs to the dug-out area. The land above the Broken Dragon Cliff belongs to the original world? Then where did the dug-out land go? The entire corpse kingdom and the surrounding floating islands don't have such a large area, right? For some reason, an incredible scene appeared in Han Dong's mind. A huge coffin lid fell from the sky, covering the dug-out area, forming a natural coffin of the earth. Huh? What's with that scene just now? Is it my intuition, or is it a memory fragment brought to me as a zombie born in the current world, or is it some kind of hint given to me by my cultivation of the floating corpse internal sutra? It's most likely the latter. After all, my corpse is just a very ordinary islander. Oh right. The creator of Floating Corpse Internal Classic, Grand Secretary Du, was the late Emperor's most trusted official. He could be said to be the Emperor's right-hand man. Because of this, Grand Secretary Du's Floating Corpse Internal Classic could skip the screening of the Ministry of Official Personnel Affairs and directly be listed as a special corpse collection. It was rumored that he had even saved the late Emperor's life. Such an important person shouldn't have been crushed into corpse oil after death. There was a high chance that his corpse would be preserved intact. If Grand Secretary Du's brain was still intact, I might be able to use it to complete the internal scripture of the floating corpse, or even to reveal the nature of the world and find out the reason why I lost control. Wang Xiying, who used to be the Minister of War, should be able to get information about the corpse. He might even be able to provide some direct information. If the image that just flashed through my mind is real, a certain big shot using the earth as a coffin and the sky as a lid, then I have to be careful. If I offend this big shot, I'll definitely die. The threat of a rampage arose in Han Dong's heart again. At this moment, boom! A loud noise came from the bottom of the cliff, so much so that the upper end could clearly feel the layers of tremors. The vegetation near the cliff was also shaking violently. Then, Han Dong looked into the depths of the forest. A green tide was surging over. Oh no! Without the support of Meritus, Han Dong did not dare to use void transmission at will. Otherwise, all the energy would be drained in a few moments. He could only descend normally. The situation at the bottom was not evenly matched, as Han Dong had predicted. Instead, it was completely tilted to one side. The poor intelligence agent, the dwarf zombie Zhu Wen, had been beaten out of shape by the stick in Zhang Xiaoliang's hand. A poisonous snake that had drilled into the wound had bitten through his heart, and he died tragically on the spot. As for Zhang Xiaoliang, he was beaming with a crazy smile, showing everyone the results of his battle. Chong Lian, the flying knife rat, had been made into meat jelly and sealed in a layer of ice that was several meters thick. His head, spine, torso, and limbs were forcefully torn apart in the ice. Even if the black pill extended his life, he would not be able to live for more than an hour. Of course, Luo Gaocheng had also paid a great price to seal the target. There was a huge wound on his waist and abdomen, which was stabilized by the ice. If it were any other zombie, they would have been successfully cut in half. Stone Mountain Su Jiwei, this zombie with extremely high defense, who could crush his target with heavy pressure, stood in place with a blank expression. His body was slowly turning into fine powder with the wind, all because his heart was gone. Chen Xining seemed to have revealed the Black Tower true body in the battle. At present, there were still some spiritual substances remaining on the surface of her body. At the same time, there was also a heavy black pill stained with fat in her hand. As for Su Jiwei's body, there were no wounds at all. The two executioners had been killed. Only Feng Kuei, the second in command of the barracks and the direct contact between the barracks and the Central Ministry of War, was still holding on. The huge commotion just now was also caused by him. He blasted the mountain wall into an exaggerated wave-shaped crater. It had to be said, Feng Kuei's black flesh had a strong death resistance. Under various forms of attacks, even if there were many fatal injuries, he could continue to hold on by transferring his body. Puff! A mouthful of stinky black corpse liquid sprayed on the ground. Feng Kuei intended to rush forward, but he knelt on the ground because of a feeling of being unable to support himself. The sense of powerlessness also made him calm down and re-examine the situation in front of him. The strong subordinates he brought were all killed, and he could also feel that he had exhausted too much corpse energy. His body had reached the upper limit. Am I, Feng Kuei, going to die here? It's really worthy of the mechanical ascension. Just when he was ready to cut off all means of retreat, a very valuable invisibility talisman fell in front of him. Feng Kuei had dealt with necromancers in the Ministry of War, so he could recognize the type of talisman paper at a glance. At the same time, a voice came from the sky. Everyone quickly put on the invisibility talisman and find a place to hide. The monsters are coming. Feng Kuei looked up. The source of the voice was the young zombie floating in the sky and did not participate in the battle. Floating, transforming strength. These keywords had made Feng Kuei have a certain guess about the young zombie, but he did not understand why he threw him an invisibility talisman. But he couldn't care so much. After confirming that there was no problem with the talisman paper, he immediately put it on and hid behind the boulder not far away. The others followed one after another and hid in different positions. Immediately afterward, an exaggerated scene appeared from the top. Incomparably dense vines hung down from the mountain sky. From a distance, it looked like a green waterfall on the cliff. All kinds of strange monsters came down with the help of the vines. The monster tide also included 3 great monsters that exuded a powerful aura. Among them, the most exaggerated one was the black bear with a body size of more than 20 meters. Silver-scaled heavy armor. A heavy hammer piled up with skulls. It jumped to the ground without the help of the vines, causing a violent tremor within a radius of 10 miles. When it landed, it roared loudly. Who dares to destroy the broken dragon cliff? You're courting death. Chapter 12:31. Han Dong floated in the air, using the invisibility talisman and the void state. The tentacles spread all over the body, showing the void attribute, allowing the individual to be in the gap between reality and space, to achieve a perfect hiding effect. Big monsters are indeed a little special. As Chun Fengshe said, these monsters achieved breakthroughs through self-enlightenment. Their foundation was more stable, and their level was deeper. 1 in 10,000, and they were strong purely through the accumulation of numbers. It was a bit exaggerated to attract 3 monsters at once. It seemed that the broken dragon cliff was of great significance to this group of monsters. Putting aside the corpse of Grand Secretary Du, with the monsters as an entry point, he might be able to get the answer about the origin of the world. Those big monsters who had lived for hundreds or even thousands of years might know how the broken dragon cliff was formed, or how a part of the earth was dug out. I hope I won't be discovered by this group of monsters. Otherwise, it will be another fierce battle and may attract more monsters. If there is no other way, I can only temporarily evacuate from here. Just thinking of this, Han Dong frowned. Someone was discovered. Like a green waterfall, the vines pouring down from the cliff were also controlled by a big monster. Its appearance was similar to a green-skinned girl wrapped in a cabbage, belonging to the perceptive type. The vines dragged out a zombie hidden in the coffin. It was Zhang Xiaoyang. However, the situation was a little different. Zhang Xiaoyang was not directly killed. The black bear with the largest physique and the most right to speak put its nose on Zhang Xiaoyang's body and sniffed around. The smell of snakes and some insects, mixed with the zombie of our monster race? What's the situation here? Hurry up and tell me clearly, or I'll use you as an appetizer today. In this situation, Zhang Xiaoyang naturally looked very flustered. He didn't know how to explain the current situation, and he didn't dare to say anything about his companions. At this time, due to the influence of the clown virus, Han Dong's conscious voice sounded in his head, perfectly using every dead person on the scene to give an explanation without any loopholes. You're so lucky to be able to survive. Come with us. The vines retracted. Zhang Xiaoyang was not killed, but taken away together with them. The monster tide also quickly dispersed. Before leaving, Han Dong only left him a sentence: seize the opportunity. The monster tide retreated. Soon after, the invisibility talisman completely lost its effectiveness. Everyone slowly came out from different corners with a panicked expression. They had just experienced a great battle and could not withstand the impact of such a strong demon wave. If it were not for Han Dong's reminder, they would have become the black bear's food. Among them, the one who was the most confused was naturally Feng Kuei, who was the opposing party. If it wasn't for the black flesh bestowed by the 18 levels of scripture supporting him, he would have died long ago. Right now, he didn't have the strength to escape at all. He could only stay here, his life and death in the hands of others. Even if he had to die, he had to figure out one thing. Why did you give me a talisman? Are you trying to save my life on purpose, waiting for the demon wave to retreat before killing me, seizing my black core and extracting my corpse oil? Or are you worried that I will leak the information about you hiding in the surroundings? At this moment, Han Dong's body overlapped with the sun as he floated in the air. He wagged his finger gently and said in a very aggressive voice, "Don't worry. No. I'm not interested in your body at all, and I'm not worried that you'll leak my secrets. If you're really discovered by the demon, you'll just join an extra battle and waste a little of my time. The reason why I gave you the invisibility talisman is to give you a chance. Are you willing to join me?" The last sentence echoed in Feng Kuei's mind, and he couldn't get rid of it. At this moment, Han Dong's body overlapped with the sun, and he slowly spread his arms. Swish! 8 octopus tentacles from the deep sea suddenly grew out from his back, swaying strangely. Han Dong's hair color slowly turned pink. The zombie's skin also became as delicate as water. This was the effect of the deep diver brought by the deep imitation of Nicole. It was like a strange god descending from the sky. Feng Kuei had already guessed that the reason why his iron ring couldn't break his defense, and his fist couldn't cause direct damage, was because Han Dong cultivated the floating corpse internal scripture that no one in the corpse kingdom could cultivate. Some kind of divinity suppressed Feng Kuei's thoughts and enslaved him. I, Feng Kuei, am willing, at this moment. A tentacle quickly connected to the back of Feng Kuei's head, and skillfully pulled out the corpse voodoo entrenched inside. Needless to say, this Feng Kuei was really something. Even the corpse voodoo in his head was different from others. Because of eating black meat for many years, the corpse voodoo had become fat and dark, and its body was about twice the size of an ordinary corpse voodoo. However, since he removed one thing, he had to put a similar one back. A wisp of red substance was injected into his brain by Han Dong. After a quarter of an hour, Feng Kuei woke up in a daze. A large number of external memories had disappeared, and his good impression of the imperial court had almost disappeared. When he looked at the young zombie in front of him, there was an indescribable sense of intimacy. Because they were still enemies, not long ago, this black brawny man with the physique of a manga was a bit like a sissy, and he didn't know what to do. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Han Dong. As a senior official of the Ministry of War, you should know the others. They all follow me. I didn't expect that someone could cultivate the floating corpse internal scripture. I didn't lose unjustly at all. There's nothing to say. Since I chose to live, I will be sentenced to leave the Ministry of War. I will work well under you. You won't be sentenced to leave. When Governor Wang returns to the position of Minister of War, you can return to your previous life, and even take over the position of Governor. Sure enough, are you working for Governor Wang on this trip? What do you need me to do? We will continue to go deeper to reach an extreme point in the demon domain and obtain a mysterious liquid called moon water. I will do my best to help. However, I was seriously injured in the battle just now, and I used up all the corpse oil along the way. I may need a long time to recover. Suddenly, a test tube was suddenly thrown into Feng Kuei's hand. The test tube was filled with corpse essence without any impurities. Extracted from the corpses of your subordinates, it should be enough for you to recover from your injuries. How did you do this? In Feng Kuei's mind, the extraction of corpse essence required a series of precise instruments. It was 100 times more complicated than the extraction of corpse oil, and there were no facilities at the scene. How did you extract it? Confusion and the unknown slowly evolved into a reverence for Han Dong. He drank the corpse essence. With the circulation of the 18 levels of scripture, new black flesh slowly grew from the wound. Feng Kuei, do you know if the body of Grand Scholar Du is still there? Hearing that it was Han Dong's question, the slave tendency from the soul made him search his brain to give an answer. I really don't know about this. Grand Scholar Du and I are not from the same era, and I have never entered the Imperial Palace. I have not obtained the qualification to meet the Emperor, and I don't know these internal secrets. I'm really sorry. About the corpse essence, thank you very much, Mr. Han. It's no big deal. As long as you work hard, I will not treat you badly in the future. After a good rest, we will climb up the Broken Dragon Cliff and go deeper. Han Dong looked helpless. Sure enough, he still didn't know. As the doctor said, the imperial court was also divided into internal and external. The so-called internal was quite mysterious. Chapter 1232. When Han Dong asked about the Broken Dragon Cliff and the conjecture that the earth had been dug out, Feng Kuei knew nothing about it either. After all, Feng Kuei was born in the current era and had never been in contact with the early dynasty. Moreover, the imperial court seemed to be hiding this matter. The moment the air was inhaled into the body, the relevant memories should have been completely wiped out. Since there were no clues, the only thing they could do now was to complete the task entrusted by Governor Wang. Bottom of the Broken Dragon Cliff. Due to the small-scale demon tide, even if the majority of the demons had retreated, a small part of them was still hovering above their heads. If they went up directly, it would be easy to attract the black bears that had not gone far. They could only take a slight detour and move horizontally for thousands of meters along the mountain wall. Han Dong floated up and confirmed that there was no problem with the forest above. Then he waved to his companions below and signaled them to climb. Although the other zombies did not have the ability to fly like Han Dong, climbing was a piece of cake for the black zombie. The doctor only relied on his mechanical feet and tentacles to climb up. He crossed his hands in front of his chest and looked very relaxed. Luo Gaoqing condensed a layer of ice at the bottom of his feet and stepped on the rock wall at a 90-degree angle. Chen Xining did the same. She walked on the rock wall with the talisman on her calf. Feng Kuei, who had just been recruited as a follower, used a more exaggerated climbing method. When the others were climbing up the rock, he trotted back for a distance, about the same distance as the broken dragon cliff. He bent his knees and squatted. Layers of power accumulated between the black flesh and the zombie aura sank. Ding ding ding. The iron ring between his calf and thigh began to tremble. Zombie jump is zombies used jumping instead of walking. Feng Kuei could use the zombie jump to the extreme. Boom. Leaving a ring-shaped pit in the ground, the black flesh jumped hundreds of meters high and landed on the edge of the broken dragon cliff. Han Dong showed a rather admiring expression, and the doctor also saw this scene. The mechanical energy instantly exploded and reached the top in a short time. In this way, everyone climbed up the broken dragon cliff and came to the real demon territory. This was the first time they had reached such a depth. Even Feng Kuei had never crossed the broken dragon cliff. The reason why the coffin was not carried up was not because it was too heavy. Instead, it was Han Dong who requested that they walk for the rest of the journey. The density of the monsters above was not suitable for using vehicles. If they used coffins to move forward, there was a high chance that they would be discovered. Walking was the safest and most adaptable way. Coupled with the spirit travel talisman, provided by Chen Xining, their walking speed was only slightly slower than the coffin carriage. Although Chen Xining played a very important role in the team, Han Dong still kept an eye on her. He also asked the doctor to secretly observe her. The location marked on the map is about 400 kilometers away from here. I'll lead the way. Manager Huang, bring up the rear. No one is allowed to leave the group without my permission. If we encounter demons on the way, I will arrange the relevant strategies for us. Yes. When Han Dong gave his request, Feng Kuei was the first to agree, showing absolute obedience. This kind of performance also stunned the others. They couldn't understand how a powerhouse like Han Dong could undergo such a huge change. Issue. Corp State, Imperial District Taichi Sect. A mysterious official wearing a black and gold official uniform, embroidered with a goo insect patch on the chest and wearing a wooden mask, stepped through the gate and walked along the 1008 stairs to the Taichi Palace. Your Majesty, I have something important to report. Today, a large number of important officials were disconnected from the demon territory. This is their corresponding waste tag hanging in the pharmacy. A few days ago, there was another alchemist Long Jing, who also lost contact in the demon territory. We have determined that he is dead. In an instant, a gust of hellish black wind blew out from the palace and rolled in the waste tag. A majestic voice like a dragon came from inside. This matter is handed over to your secret department to investigate strictly. You can mobilize the genie guards. Yes. Demon territory, a strange mountain 200 kilometers away from the broken dragon cliff. The mountain was not high, only 100 meters. There were a large number of caves inside, and there was a natural hot spring in each cave. Moreover, the hot spring water here had the effect of replenishing energy and healing injuries. Therefore, it was called Hot Spring Mountain. In the deepest part of the mountain, several zombies were soaking in the best hot spring. Han Dong, Ebon Feng Kuei, Frozen Bones, Luo Gaoqing. The three of them were soaking in the hot spring to recuperate, recovering the physical strength and energy they had consumed along the way. It was worth mentioning that Han Dong was still holding a strange ball of brain in his hand. Those who didn't know would think that he was going to cook the brain in the hot spring. This ball of brain came from Dr. Swollen. His body was almost a mechanical body, so he couldn't go into the water. Only his brain could enjoy such a natural masterpiece. Although the scene looked quite strange, in the eyes of the doctor, it was his supreme honor. After all, being able to be held in the palm of the Lord should be the most glorious moment of his life. As a woman, Chen Xining was not convenient to take a bath, because of the mechanical transformation of her body. She could only sit by the hot spring and soak her legs in it, thinking about something alone. The reason why they could be so leisurely. It was because the monsters worshipped the hot spring mountain as a holy mountain. Only by making contributions or under special circumstances would a monster be qualified to take a bath in the hot spring mountain. Usually, everyone would just look at the mountain and kneel down to worship. The group easily circled in. In this relaxed and comfortable time, Frozen Bones Luo Gaoqing suddenly asked, "Mr. Han, you shouldn't be from this world, right?" Han Dong put his arm on the shore and asked leisurely, "Why do you say so? I have never seen or heard of some of the skills you used. For example, the spatial ability that we used to teleport from the cave to the coffin, and the tentacles that grow out of your body from time to time. Looking at them makes me feel very uncomfortable. Moreover, no one has been able to master the floating corpse internal scripture since ancient times, but you can easily control it. Your thinking must be different from ours." Hearing this, Feng Kuei on the side also immediately added, "That's right. At that time, we were guarding the entrance of the cave. Who knew that you would leave in the coffin directly? I have never been able to figure out this matter. It turns out to be spatial ability. That's amazing, Mr. Han. You guessed right. I'm really not from your world." "Then what are you doing here?" "This depends on the narrow sense or the broad sense. In the narrow sense, I'm just here to upgrade myself. In the broad sense, it's related to the unstable factors of your world. From the information I have now, I must thoroughly investigate the palace. Of course, I can't change the current situation of the world. I'm just bringing some information back. During this period, I will also need your help. I will get information through proper means. As long as the zombies assist me in the process, they will naturally be rewarded. Especially the few of you, I will try my best to satisfy any needs you have. It's about time, let's go. I hope everything will go smoothly for the last 200 miles. Although Luo Gaoqing had some ideas, he still believed in Han Dong. After all, he was personally disappointed in the world. He even hoped that Han Dong, a foreigner, could change the current situation of the world. Chapter 1233. Even if Han Dong used his perception to avoid the dense areas and chose some thorny paths and steep mountain roads, he would still encounter monsters. However, since he encountered them, he had to make the most of it. After all, everyone knew nothing about the depths of the demon territory. Crack! It was a bat demon that looked similar to the hybrid demon, Nightingale. It retained its bat wings. Its torso had a tendency to transform into a human's. Its head was full of black hair. It had yet to differentiate the structure of its eyes. It only had a disgusting nasal cavity and an ugly mouth full of sharp teeth. Before it could fly away, Feng Kuei directly grabbed its head with his palm. Ding ding ding! The iron ring trembled, and the brain and skull were directly crushed into pieces. There were also a large number of bat demon corpses that were beaten until they were deformed. Their hearts were pierced or their heads were smashed. Feng Kuei was full of enthusiasm. He didn't know why, but as long as Han Dong was here, he would want to show off. This desire to claim credit was even stronger than when he worked in the Ministry of War. Feng Kuei carried a bat demon whose head was crushed and asked Luo Gaoqing, who was not far away, "Has Mr. Han settled it? There's no movement yet. Let's wait." Feng Kuei really wanted to show off his achievements. He slipped to the entrance of the cave and quietly spied on the situation inside. The strange scene that appeared in the cave scared the muscular man into taking 2 steps back. Some strange patterns also appeared near his eyes. A murmur of the meaning of Axa Siltumo appeared in his head, forcing Feng Kuei to shift his gaze back. In the narrow cave, a healthy bat demon with the highest status and covered in blood vessels was hanging upside down in the air. The key parts of the bat demon's body were full of mechanical tentacles from Dr. Swollen. Especially the head. 2 catheters were inserted through the nostrils and 2 catheters were connected through the temples, which played a stabilizing role to ensure that the individual would not explode and die. What made Feng Kuei not dare to peek was Han Dong's current state. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Tentacles came out from Han Dong's face and drilled into the back of the bat demon's head. It was carrying out a deep analysis, trying to analyze the essence of the monster. This process lasted about 10 minutes. Irregular tumors began to appear on the bat demon's head. Slowly, more and more tumors began to appear, piling up to the size of the bat demon's head and body. His entire body had almost turned into a fallen life form. Boom! When it exceeds the limit, the head will explode. Black brain matter and chunks of sarcomas splattered on the walls of the cave. However, Han Dong had a smile on his face as he used his tentacles to wipe off the filth on his body. It would be great if the stability could be higher. However, the analysis is basically complete. Lord, give me the module. A gray-mottled tentacle connected to the doctor's brain and transmitted the completed model of the monster module in Han Dong's brain to the doctor's brain for integration. Similar things had happened more than 10 times. A total of 17 different types of monster modules were integrated and processed by the doctor to achieve the effect of completely analyzing monsters. The reason for this plan. This was because he had to disguise himself as a monster for the next operation. Through the memory extraction of the first few monsters, it was confirmed that the mountain marked on the map was called Mount Moon Goddess. It was a famous peak in the demon territory, a sacred mountain, and a peak revered by thousands of monsters. Its scale was huge enough to be ranked in the top 3 in the demon territory. When the monsters became dependent, groups of monsters came to Mount Moon Goddess to settle down, build villages, and build tribes. Over time, a large number of villages were formed and began to merge. A great monster city built on the mountain, Moonlight City, was formed. According to the fragmented information in the monster's brain, Han Dong could basically confirm that the moon water that Governor Wang was looking for was most likely hidden in Mount Moon Goddess, and it did have the effect of flesh and bones. This was because the monsters had already performed several miracles on Mount Moon Goddess. They sent a highly reputable monster that had died in an accident into the mountains. A few days later, the dead monster actually came back to life and returned to life. This kind of incident had happened more than once. It was also because of this that the monster's reverence and worship of Mount Moon Goddess grew day by day. Now, Mount Moon Goddess was regarded as a sacred place, and it was strictly guarded by several monsters. It was impossible to sneak in. To enter Mount Moon Goddess, one had to pass through the demon city. Therefore, disguises were necessary. At the same time, when he was reading the memories, there was a term that caught Han Dong's attention. Moon Goddess. Perhaps it was just a legend among the monsters, or perhaps it was a real monster. If it was a mythical monster, things would become very troublesome. Therefore, he had to settle down in Moonlight City and figure out the real situation before taking action. If there was really a monster that had created a mythical monster, perhaps this operation would have to be abandoned, and Mr. Wang Shiheng's line would be cut off. 17 syringes were evenly spaced by Han Dong and placed on the ground. Come, choose the perfect monster essence that suits you or that you like and inject it into your body. I will introduce the monster's attributes into your body. Your ability system will not be affected too much, mainly the changes in form and aura. When the operation is over, I will extract the monster essence from your body, so you don't have to worry at all. Frozen bones, Luo Gaocheng was still a little hesitant. He pursued pure things like ice crystals, and he had a sense of repulsion towards monsters. I'll do it. As usual, Feng Kuei, who was covered in iron rings and black flesh, was the most enthusiastic. I trust Mr. Han, recommend one to me. Okay, this one. Han Dong handed over a black syringe. The color of the syringe did seem to match with the medicine. Feng Kuei injected it into his body without hesitation. Its appearance also changed. Its body became even bigger than before, reaching a height of 3 meters and almost 4 meters. It had fan-shaped ears, a huge and protruding nose, and 2 upturned fangs. Boar monster, and it was a wild boar monster. Although its appearance was very ugly, Feng Kuei could feel a vigorous monster energy complementing his own ability, and his strength had increased slightly. Thank you, Mr. Han. Seeing this, Luo Gaocheng simply let Han Dong help him choose. A light blue syringe was injected into his body. The wrinkles on Luo Gaocheng's face immediately disappeared, and in its place was a pair of blue and white fox ears and a tail. His body did not change at all, but he became younger. His movements were more agile, and his control of the ice element was also more proficient. This blue and white demon fox should be quite suitable for you. Thank you. Luo Gaocheng felt like he had regained his youth, and his prejudice against monster fusion had disappeared. As for Chen Xining, she made her own choice. After the colorful syringe was injected into her body, there was no visible change in her appearance. Only her eyelashes glowed with a rainbow color. It must be known that Chen Xining's human body was originally a disguise. What kind of life she was in itself a secret. Han Dong did not need the syringe. With the faceless head, he could blend in anywhere. Where did Manager Huang go? Feng Kuei asked curiously. After choosing the syringe, the doctor's figure had disappeared. He'll be here soon. Manager Huang's body is special, and needs to undergo more steps of modification. They waited for about half an hour. A scorpion demon with a black scorpion shell, a body length of 4 meters, and a huge front pincer slowly crawled out from the depths of the cave. Let's go. Chapter 1234. So this is Mount Yueshan? When the group climbed up a barren and protruding hill, they saw a group of people. Using the height of the terrain, they could see Mount Yueshan, which stood among the mountains but had a completely different appearance from the other mountains. It wasn't just a difference in size. Its overall color was also different from the surrounding mountains. It was mainly dark gray and white. The dark gray came from the rocks of Mount Yueshan. Moreover, the rocks had a strong geometry. From afar, it looked like a huge mountain that was assembled from super-large polyhedral rocks. The white came from a type of vegetation that only belonged to Mount Yueshan. In other words, all the vegetation that grew on Mount Yueshan would be white. The white vegetation didn't look like a snowy landscape. Instead, it made Mount Yueshan look more like a work of art. It felt like white paint was applied to the surface of a work of art. It was huge, towering into the clouds, and connected with the sun and the moon. From afar, it did give off a strong sense of awe. As they looked down, they soon found Moonlight City, which was built on the mountain. It was a demon city that had the same color as Mount Yueshan. The outer wall was made of dark gray rocks, and white buildings could be seen everywhere. If one tried to look closely, they would be blocked by a kind of fog. It must be a barrier that was set up around the city. Mr. Han, can you fly directly into the mountain? Manager Huang from the Ministry of Works is here too. He must be able to make a temporary flying device on the spot. If you can go directly into the mountain, it should save a lot of time. It seemed like Feng Kuei's question was stupid, but in reality, it was possible. Han Dong was looking at Mount Yueshan through the demon eye's long-range vision. He separated a part of his thoughts and explained simply. Flying is a common thing for demons, just like the bat demons we encountered before. They must have considered the possibility of individuals approaching Mount Yueshan by flying. There's no need to take the risk. If we're discovered, it'll be much more difficult for us to sneak into the city. Besides, we need to enter Moonlight City to explore. If we can get information about Mount Yueshan from the demons in advance, it might be more effective than flying up the mountain. Feng Kuei nodded. He felt that Han Dong's words made sense, so he continued to ask. Then, how should we deal with the level problem? The few of us are real great demons in the demon clan. You should know that great demons are very rare in the demon realm. They've never seen us before. Won't that arouse suspicion? Han Dong didn't see this as a problem at all. What does it matter? The demon realm was vast, and this was just one of the many demon cities. In this kind of demon territory where there was no centralized rule and was filled with the aura of freedom, unfamiliarity was a very normal thing. Some great demons like to live with a large group, some great demons like to control a small force by themselves, and some great demons like itinerant cultivators who are unrestrained. Indeed, the Fiend region is not a country of corpses. Not every black zombie is strictly registered. Of course, we shouldn't be too conspicuous. It's better to keep a low profile. Let's go into the city. Outside Moonlight City, 5 monsters with vastly different physiques walked out from the forest. Since more than 80% of his body was covered by the cloak, he could only roughly distinguish some characteristics from his exposed hands and feet. When the 2 bear demons in charge of guarding the city gate smelled a whiff of a great demon's scent, they immediately perked up. However, they weren't too afraid. Instead, they were quite happy. It seemed that Moonlight City's power could be strengthened again. Demons still used human language to communicate. Perhaps it had something to do with the initial corpse gas that caused the demon transformation. Moonlight City has clear rules. If the 5 of you want to enter the city, you have to state your intentions and drink this bowl of moon god soup at the same time. As he said this, a small demon with more than 10 arms came to the city gate with 5 bowls of soup. Han Dong asked softly, "What is the meaning of this soup?" Moon god soup is actually the snow water that flows down from Moon God Mountain. It has no effect on our bodies. The rules cannot be changed. Drink it and you can enter the city. If you don't drink it, you are disrespecting the moon god. You are not welcome here. Okay. Han Dong took a bowl of the so-called moon god soup and inspected it with his demon eye. He noticed a trace of magic in the soup, but it was harmless to individuals. It seemed to have the effect of a mark. Since it was a rule to enter the city, there was nothing he could do. Han Dong picked up the bowl of soup and drank it in one gulp. His teammates also drank it one after another. Indeed, there was no discomfort. Instead, there was a refreshing feeling of thirst quenching. However, there was a moon mark on everyone's skin that could not be removed. We came from afar and heard that there is a special water in Moon God Mountain that can heal any injury. Just as Han Dong asked this question, the 2 demon bears guarding the city gate looked at each other. Did you really come here without hearing anything? Yes, we've probably traveled more than 1,000 miles. We know very little about the Moon Goddess Mountain. No wonder you would ask such a question. The special water you mentioned is something unique to Moon God Mountain, but it is only one of many. All kinds of demon clans gather at the foot of Moon God Mountain, not only out of respect for the mountain, but also for the various mysterious items hidden in the mountain. In addition to the moon water you mentioned, there is also the priceless Moon God Jade and the high-purity moonstone that can be used to forge divine weapons. Some demon clans can even complete a breakthrough after climbing the mountain. However, these mysterious items exist in high places. Every day, a large number of demon clans attempt to climb the mountain, but very few succeed. Even great demon clans may not be able to reach the top. Han Dong was interested when he heard this. In that case, there are no restrictions on climbing the mountain. Any demon clans can climb it at any time? Yes. However, I advise you to make the necessary preparations in Moonlight City. Although all of you are great demons, climbing Moon God Mountain is 100 times more difficult than you think. If you are not careful, you may even lose your life. When Han Dong heard this, he took out a few valuable jade stones from his pocket. They were the treasures he obtained from killing the demon clans. Let me ask you another question. Does the Moon God really exist on Moon God Mountain? Well, the demon bear stared at the valuable jade stones in Han Dong's hand and continued speaking. There is no clear information, only a rumor. It is said that there is an existence above the great demon clans who lives alone at the peak of Moon God Mountain, accompanied by the sun and the moon. However, it is very difficult to reach the top. Since the establishment of Moonlight City, no demon clans have been able to reach the peak. Is it still just a rumor? Thank you. Han Dong handed over the jade stones and officially entered the city under the demon bear's respectful gaze. Make some preparations and climb the mountain immediately. Chapter 1235. Since they had already confirmed that this Moonlight City was equivalent to a mountaineering stronghold, the following matters would be much easier to handle. After asking around, he could not get any useful information. There was no information about the mountain climbing at all, because any monster that failed to climb the mountain and returned to the foot of the mountain had forgotten most of the experience. It was the same. No matter how many times a mountain climber climbed, they could not accumulate the relevant experience. As for the monsters that successfully reached the high ground and gained a certain amount of rewards, they all left Moonlight City. They were unwilling to climb the mountain a second time, nor were they willing to talk about anything related to it. Mr. Han, do we need to buy some mountain climbing supplies? No need, these things are not very useful. Something that can stop a big monster from climbing the mountain is naturally not ordinary. We only need to bring one thing, a corpse. Don't be too conspicuous when collecting the corpses. We will meet here in an hour. Yes. Corpses were necessary. Animal blood and corpse oil were two types of food for zombies. The latter was more effective and could replenish the zombies' energy and even heal their injuries. After a series of tests, the corpse oil extracted from monster corpses was also very valuable. Han Dong was not at all interested in this chaotic and unruly structure of the demon city. He did not have any intention of strolling around. Therefore, when they parted ways, he secretly found a person in the group and used this time to have a good chat. Miss Chin, do you have time? Yes. Ever since the corpse goo in Chen Xining's head was removed, she had become a person of few words. The two of them came to an empty alley. Smack! Han Dong straightened his arm and directly pressed her against the wall, giving her a sense of oppression. If my plan can be carried out smoothly, I should have enough bargaining chips to exchange for freedom from the corpse country's ruler and let us safely return to the Black Tower. Yes, I believe you, Chen Xining said very calmly. Then, Miss Chin, can you tell me your essence? I'll be frank with you. I'm in charge of everything now. To a certain extent, I still don't trust you. Compared to the natives who are easy to enslave, Miss Chen is a huge variable to me. Do you really want to see it? Yes, please let me see it. Although this conversation sounded strange, it was necessary for Han Dong to do so. But a talisman was stuck on his forehead. Chen Xining's eyes immediately became dim and lifeless. A strange substance appeared on the surface of his body and slowly separated from it. One after another, the threads connected to his body were slowly snapped, and they appeared incomparably sticky. This kind of stickiness made Han Dong somewhat concerned. Perhaps it was because Chen Xining had been using this body for many years, and her main body had taken root in it. It could also be a sign of strong attachment. Once Chen Xining was attached to a body, it would be difficult to separate from it. Slowly, Chen Xining's body was separated from her body, which corresponded to a grayish-black substance in the form of a hoe. It looked like a spiritual form, but it also looked like a physical form. Its body also seemed to be affected by electromagnetic interference, and some parts of its body would emit irregular vibrations. Overall, it looked very much like the conventional concept of a ghost. There was only one oral structure on the face. His voice was like radio waves, intermittently transmitting into Han Dong's mind. If we use the language here, then I am a life form known as Ulthane. We are a type of surreal individual. We can freely switch between corporeal and incorporeal. I'll tell you my real name when we return to the Black Tower. As he spoke, Chen Xining's palm, made of dust particles, reached out toward Han Dong. There was an obvious touch of the palm on his chest, but the palm easily penetrated his body like spiritual particles. When he was fighting with the Ministry of War's pursuers, he used this method to take away the heart. However, there was still a problem. But Han Dong didn't continue to ask. He indicated that he had obtained a satisfactory answer and apologized at the same time. I'm really sorry. After all, this is an out-of-control world that the Black Tower can't manage. I have to understand the essence of my teammates. Chen Xining's main body also slowly attached back to her body like dust, returning to her usual state. She said softly, I understand. By the way, what is Mr. Han's essence? Me? I'm the same as the zombie of the Corpse Nation when he was alive. I'm a basic life form that exists in all kinds of worlds, humans. Chen Xining glanced at Han Dong suspiciously, but didn't ask any questions. Han Dong revealed a cheerful smile and pointed in the direction of the street. Let's hurry up and find some corpses. I hope this trip to Mount Moon Goddess will be fruitful. An hour passed. When everyone gathered, they were dragging linen bags of various sizes in their hands. If such a situation happened in the Corpse Nation, the Ministry of Justice would definitely come knocking on their door. But in the demon realm, it was an extremely normal thing. Let's go. In the initial stage of the mountain, they encountered many demons who were also trying to climb the mountain. Most of them weren't here for the strange items on Mount Moon Goddess. They were pursuing a kind of fortuitous encounter. They hoped to find a cave carved with inscriptions at a high place. After a night of enlightenment, they could turn into a great demon. Without any experience to impart, it was too difficult to break through on one's own. In the beginning, they didn't feel much. It was just like their normal journey. When they arrived at the first white forest area, abnormalities began to appear. Many low-level demons, no matter how well prepared they were. When they stepped into the forest, their pupils immediately turned white. Like walking corpses, they walked in the opposite direction, which was the foot of the mountain. Han Dong, on the other hand, smiled and picked a white flower from the ground. For a moment, white spots appeared in Han Dong's pupils, but he immediately suppressed them. Hallucinogenic pollen? Even if we don't breathe, it can still penetrate through our skin. If this kind of mental influence is present throughout the journey, it will be much easier. After Han Dong's reminder, Chen Xining drew a large number of mind-cleansing talismans on the spot and distributed them to her teammates except for Han Dong. In this way, every white forest they passed would eliminate a group of climbers. Danger gradually appeared. Some lost people didn't obediently descend the mountain. Instead, they turned to attack other climbers. However, this was a good thing for Han Dong and the others. They could reasonably collect more corpses. Swoosh! A lost person who attacked Han Dong was directly swallowed by the blood dog. He didn't even have a chance to resist. Great demon! The nearby climbers immediately distanced themselves when they saw this. They were afraid that they would be killed if they got lost. Before they knew it, they had already climbed 1,000 meters. Feng Kuei, who looked like a wild boar, stared at the clouds not far away and commented with disdain. This Mount Yueshan isn't as powerful as they say. We're going to cross the cloud zone so soon. It's just a dangerous mountain with illusions. During my years of special training in the Ministry of War, there were experts from the secret sect who specially trained us in illusions. It's not a big deal. However, just as everyone continued to climb and pass through the cloud-shrouded mountain path together in the blink of an eye, only Feng Kuei was left. Where is everyone? Mr. Han. No matter how Feng Kuei shouted, he didn't get any response. However, this wasn't an isolated case. It was the same for everyone. All individuals who passed through the clouds, regardless of whether they were in a team or not, were isolated. Han Dong tried to contact the doctor who had tied up his brain sensing in advance, but there was still no response. This feeling of isolation made Han Dong reveal an almost crazy smile. Yes, this is more like it. Chapter 1236. After passing through the cloud-covered mountain path, all the climbers were isolated. Han Dong was the same. After continuing to climb for a while, Han Dong stopped with a puzzled look on his face. He smelled something strange, although the mountain path in front of him was going up. But Han Dong felt that something was wrong. To be precise, it was the feeling that his brain conveyed to Han Dong. At the same time, he felt that the path under his feet seemed to have been walked. Han Dong believed in his brain's feelings. Could it be that, when I passed through the clouds, my sense of direction was reversed? Unbelievable, Moon Goddess Mountain can actually affect my brain on a deep level. However, it's not that simple to affect my brain. It should be related to the soup I drank when I entered the city. He recalled that when he drank the soup, the moon mark formed on the surface of his body. He immediately lifted his clothes. The moon mark, engraved on the upper right side of his chest, had been dyed white jade. It formed an illusory maze that was driven by the body. At first, when I passed through the mountain forest, I was infected with the white pollen. It seemed to have a hallucinogenic effect, causing the little demon to fall into a state of insanity. But its real effect was to invade the body and constantly perfect the moon mark on the climber's body. When passing through the clouds, the mark would be completely activated. With the mark as the core, the high-level illusion embedded in the body would be directly activated. No one could avoid it. It brought about two types of illusion effect. 1. Vision isolation. It made us unable to see other climbers with the moon mark. 2. Reversed sense of direction. It made the climber think that they were still climbing, but they were actually going back the same way. When the two effects were combined, the individual would unknowingly return to the foot of the mountain and fall asleep due to mental exhaustion. When they woke up, they would be in Moonlight City and would have no memory of what happened during the climb. No wonder so few people could reach the top. The person who set up this trap must be an expert. If the moon god really exists, finding it might be equivalent to triggering some kind of hidden plot. It might even be able to push the progress of the main plot. After some analysis, Han Dong became more interested in the so-called moon god. Since he had discovered the reversed sense of direction, he immediately changed direction and went back to the cloud area. However, when he passed through the cloud layer this time, wisps of white substance hidden in the cloud layer quickly rushed into Han Dong's body and were all absorbed by the moon mark. Crack! A piece of jade peeled off from the surface of his body and was firmly caught by Han Dong. It was the pure white jade transformed from the moon seal. At the same time, all the illusory effects disappeared. Han Dong, who had escaped from the clouds, could be considered to have arrived at a high place in the true sense of the word. There were no more obstacles on the way up the mountain, and they successfully arrived at a round stone platform hidden in the mountains. Right in front of him was a cave sealed by a stone door. Cave, stone door. There should be something I want inside. There was a crescent-shaped groove on the surface of the stone door, which perfectly matched the jade peeled off from Han Dong's body. The two fit perfectly. Rumble! The stone door sank. Flowing water, brilliant light. A crystal-clear stream flowed slowly along the side of the cave wall. Bright crystals grew in the cave, and any one of them could be sold for an extremely high price. They could also see a kind of moon worm crawling inside. It was not aggressive, and when it sensed a stranger approaching, it would immediately hide in the crystal cluster. Soon, they arrived at a fork in the road that was similar to the reward selection section. There were 3 paths. The left path corresponded to the flowing water. The right path was full of crystals. The middle path was full of moonworms, and some murals could be seen on the walls of the cave. It seems that before the world goes out of control, this should be one of the checkpoints of the Fate event. The choices of the rewards are very obvious. They correspond to moon water that can heal any serious injuries, crystal that has a special moon attribute and is made of unique or even epic grade materials, secret room that records the cultivation methods of the moon god. According to my experience, once I choose the reward, I should be forced to return and can no longer climb the moon god mountain. The reward was right in front of him, but Han Dong fell into deep thought. He did not directly go to the left path to find the moon water that Governor Wang Xing wanted. He pondered for about 5 minutes. Han Dong suddenly turned around and walked out of the cave. He did not choose the reward. No one could understand his actions, but Han Dong had already made up his mind. He returned to the platform outside the cave. He looked up at the moon god mountain that he still could not see the top of. There were no more mountain paths at the top. The structure of the mountain looked more like a stone pillar that went straight to the sky. It was easy to imagine how difficult it would be to climb. Coupled with the obvious stone door and the choice of reward, it was as if the mountain was telling the climber, since the reward is in front of you, there is no need to continue climbing. Let's see if I can fly. He activated the Floating Corpse Internal Sutra. When he was only 2 meters above the ground, he found that he could not float up. There was a very strong feeling of pressure on his body, as if he was carrying a stone pillar. I can only climb up, squeak, squeak. Several tentacles grew out from his arms and legs, and at the same time, he imitated Nicole's suction cup feature so that the tentacles could stick to the wall better. Just as Han Dong stuck his whole body to the wall and prepared to climb, he unexpectedly found that his legs were very energetic. The soles of his feet could easily step on the vertical wall and bear most of the weight, and at the same time, they could carry his body up briskly. There is such an effect? Even the heavens are helping me. The cloth shoes on Han Dong's feet were the zombie equipment used by Governor Wang Xing, the walking corpse shoes. The description was very simple. The shoes were only for zombies to use. They could change and increase the efficiency of the zombie aura around the legs, achieving the effect of traveling 1,000 miles in a day. In that case, Han Dong increased his climbing speed toward the peak. Why did he choose the moonwater, reward and return according to the original plan? Because Han Dong knew that Professor Swollen would definitely be able to see through illusions, and he could also go to the reward selection area and obtain the moonwater. He wanted to rely on his intuition and destiny experience to try to find opportunities. Since no one had climbed Mount Yueshan before, he wanted to be the first. The height was much higher than he had expected. He climbed for 2 days and 2 nights. During this time, he injected the monster corpse essence that he had extracted in advance many times to replenish his energy, but he still could not see the peak. The height I'm at now should be almost higher than the height of the Corpse Kingdom. Let's continue. Even though several of his fingers were broken, and the suction cups on the tentacles were mostly smoothed out, Han Dong still persevered. His eyes were much more determined than before. The 3rd day, night fell. When the bright moonlight shone on Han Dong's body, his climbing hand firmly grasped the edge of the rock. He had arrived. The corners of his mouth curled up, and he immediately supported his body. Huff, huff. In an instant, a strong sense of fatigue surged through his body, causing Han Dong to collapse to the ground. He had not been so tired in a long time. It was as if he had fought several experts in the Fight Club. Oh no. I was too tired and didn't notice. Why am I breathing? But, why don't I feel any discomfort when I breathe? The air he breathed in was very fresh, and it even reduced some of his fatigue. Could it be that this height is beyond the influence of the loss of control? That's right. This place is not affected by the Toon Lord. That kid and I have an agreement. No matter what he does, he is not allowed to affect me here. An ethereal and deep voice came from beside him, scaring Han Dong so much that he immediately sat up. He looked toward the source of the voice. He saw a mysterious masked man sitting on the edge of the cliff with a fishing rod in his hand. Han Dong did not know if it was an illusion caused by his fatigue, but the line on the fishing rod seemed to be hanging in the starry sky, fishing among the stars. Chapter 12:37. The mysterious man was fishing between the cliff. He was wearing a white suit that didn't match Tomb. Moreover, Han Dong wasn't hallucinating. The fishing rod in his hand could really touch the starry sky. It was as if he was carrying out plain fishing. He wasn't sure what he could catch. It was a mask worn on the mysterious man's face. It was the whirlpool mask that Han Dong was extremely familiar with. It could be seen everywhere in the Black Tower. It was a white whirlpool that symbolized the upper level of the Black Tower. You are Administrator. This wasn't the lunar goddess he expected. It wasn't a mythical being. Instead, it was the administrator from the upper level of the Black Tower that Han Dong had met in advance. Initially, when Han Dong selected the mission file of Tomb. Because the world number M0031, Tomb belonged to the self-created world, in the early stages of Black Tower's establishment, rather than the external world. The administrator in charge of the self-created worlds from M0001 to M0100 would conduct an interview with Han Dong. The administrator that he met in the middle area of the Black Tower was the mysterious man fishing on the peak of Mount Moon Goddess. It was very likely that it was a perfect clone method. I didn't expect you to be able to come here, Mr. Han Dong. Before Han Dong could ask any questions, the executive continued, That's right. Based on the current situation and the information you've collected, can you deduce the answer to the question? Don't worry. Since you can climb up here, you should be able to answer such a question. There's no need to ask me directly. The executive's words suppressed the question that Han Dong wanted to ask. He sat cross-legged and circulated his internal energy. As his fatigue gradually faded, his body floated up. He seriously reviewed the series of events and recalled some of the conversations in the Black Tower. Before you leave, you will be arranged to have a short conversation with a Black Tower executive. This executive is the person in charge of the M0001 to M0100 worlds. The conversation will affect whether you can go to the M0031 world. The Black Tower stipulates that when the world connection drops below 10%, a task force will be sent to suppress it. If the suppression fails, the world will be annihilated. At the same time, he also considered some of the strange scenes in the world of Tomb. The country of floating corpses, the land that had been dug up, and the phenomenon that had gone out of control that affected the world. Thinking of this, Han Dong came to a bad conclusion. Could it be that I've been used? Seeing that the executive was still fishing, Han Dong could only continue. I'm not the only one being used. Including the employees who had died in the previous teams, right? The suppression limit set by the Black Tower shouldn't be as low as 10%. It should be 20% or even higher. But Tomb, which is managed by you, sir, has not been suppressed. The reason is that there have always been employees carrying out related tasks internally. These employees are the same as me. They have all passed the interview with you before coming here. As for why Mr. Administrator would take the risk of being demoted or even held accountable for doing such a thing, it must be because tomb has a very special meaning to you. If my guess is correct, tomb should be in an upgrade state, right? However, this kind of promotion is not normal. It will be classified as out of control by the Black Tower. When Han Dong gave this series of inferences, the executive slowly put down the fishing rod in his hand. Clap, 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 the white-gloved palms clapped together, expressing high praise for the answer given by Han Dong. You are very smart, as expected of an individual from the world number S01. I have to say that the people from the Fight Club have good taste. As long as a participant has good qualifications, they will find a way to poach them. The answer you gave is basically correct. I did use you. With your special background, I can convince the higher-ups in charge of the suppression work to let you try to eliminate Tomb. However, everything I said to you is also true. As long as you can achieve your goal, you will obtain unexpected gains. Hearing this, Han Dong was not very happy. As a chess piece, the feeling of being manipulated was more uncomfortable than physical torture for him. The executive continued, I am indeed at fault in this matter, but weren't you the one who made the choice in the first place? Yes, so I am not dissatisfied. But, will the administrator kill me to silence me? Han Dong asked an important question, which was also the question he was most worried about. Considering the Black Tower employees who died before and the confidential information he currently had, the probability of being silenced by the executive was very high. In the blink of an eye, the familiar domain enveloped him, and the irresistible white mucus had already covered his calf. In the blink of an eye, the executive's palm gently landed on Han Dong's shoulder. This contact actually made Han Dong feel relieved for a moment. He was not afraid of death, but he felt a little pity. After all, it was not easy to obtain a certain status in the hybrid demon world, and the manor had also entered a stage of comprehensive development. However, death did not come. Instead, a wisp of energy full of vitality was injected into his body, restoring all the physical strength consumed by climbing the mountain. Why do you want to silence me? I also have to thank you for choosing Tomb at the critical moment, buying some time for the Tomb Lord and reducing some of my troubles. You underestimate me too much. Even if the matter here is exposed, the Black Tower will at most give me a notice of criticism. Of course, a 5,000-word handwritten report is also necessary, which will make me more annoyed. In addition, don't blame the deaths of the employees on me. Their deaths have nothing to do with me at all. Of course, their deaths are not because they are weak, but because of another situation. You'd better be on guard. Another reason? Thank you, Administrator. Senior. Senior, I prefer this term. Tomb Lord, that kid, also called me this when he climbed the mountain for the first time. Because of this, I have a good first impression of him, which is why I still let him do this. The term Tomb Lord had been mentioned twice, and Han Dong did not even need to ask to guess that it must be the source of the world's loss of control. Senior, do you still need me to continue stalling for time? Since the matter had been confessed to this extent, Han Dong asked directly. Although it was uncomfortable to be used, it was still worth it if he could use this opportunity to establish a relationship with a Black Tower executive. At this moment, the executive suddenly asked an unrelated question. Have you seen a movie called The Matrix? Yes. There's a scene in it that's really classic. I just had a sudden idea. As a reward for climbing the mountain, I want to give you such a chance. With a wave of his hand, the white mucus that hid from his knees formed a white sofa and a white round table between the two of them. The executive sitting opposite him slowly extended his arms and spread his clenched fists one by one. There was a blue pill in his left palm. There was a red pill in his right palm. Swallow the blue pill, and everything will be over. I will send you out of tomb and settle the account. After all, the time you've bought is almost enough. I remember that the reason you chose Tomb is because you want 2 points of talent. I will fill in the climbing the mountain incident on the basis of your investigation of the world and try my best to get 2 points of talent. Of course, you have to understand the essence of talent points. This will have a certain impact on your future development. Swallow the red pill, and the journey will continue. I will pull some strings for you. I will let you see how deep the rabbit hole is. Chapter 1238. The blue and red pills were presented in the executive's left and right palms. The blue pill was the goal Han Dong wanted to achieve on this trip, to obtain 2 talent points in the safest way. Only by completing the opening of the door would Han Dong be qualified to go back and intervene in the upcoming London incident. He would become an important hub. However, he was very concerned about the executive's words. You have to understand the essence of talent points. This will have a certain impact on your future development. In fact, the core of this sentence was also the question Han Dong had been thinking about, the essence of the fate system. Looking at the growth system that he had seen so far. Whether it was the hybrid demons, the saint-level life forms, or the zombies in Tomb, they all had a set of very realistic evolution theories. However, the fate system gave individuals a form of points in a form similar to a game. Every 5 points accumulated would make a breakthrough. Come to think of it, points should be a kind of symbolic data that was easy to accept. It actually symbolized the experience that individuals gained from participating in fate event. The fate system was just a more intuitive way of presenting it to individuals in the form of points. The executive's words just now probably expressed one meaning. Points that were obtained with difficulty and points that were obtained perfectly would have different effects. The cultivated talent tree would also be different. It would even affect the subsequent opening of the door and even the mythical structure. In summary, Han Dong thought for a while, took the red pill, and swallowed it. Except for the strawberry taste, there was nothing special. The executive was a little surprised by such a choice. After all, when he interviewed Han Dong, he was very clear about the intern's thoughts. Strange. The fundamental purpose of you choosing the out-of-control case is not to obtain 2 talent points, right? The opportunity is right in front of you. Why take the risk? Han Dong wanted to refute. After all, the executive's words had a certain degree of inducement. If he didn't say the last sentence, Han Dong was very likely to choose the blue pill. At present, he could only explain his choice in a very formal tone. The opening of the door is very important to me. Since the executive knows the world I come from, he should also know that there are many strong people there that can't be evaluated by common sense. On the road of growth, I can't compromise even a single step. The administrator was quite satisfied with Han Dong's answer. Not bad, it seems that you have guessed the nature of talent points. Although the Black Tower is in an opposing relationship with your world, it has nothing to do with me. Judging from the current situation, I still admire you. Han Dong's heart trembled when he mentioned the world's conflict. However, the executive in front of him seemed to be a very fair existence. He didn't have any prejudice against Han Dong. The executive continued. Since you've chosen red, I'll tell you some of the problems at the root of Tomb and help you pull some strings. The inference you just gave, saying that the current world is in an ascending state, is not completely correct. To be precise, it should be a part of it is in an ascending state. What do you mean? Han Dong didn't understand. It means that the Tomb monarch doesn't want to be restricted by the self-created world. After creating his own kingdom, he wanted to move the entire corpse kingdom out of Tomb and complete the upgrade. Once he succeeded, it would form an advanced world, with the corpse kingdom as the center and would not be restricted by too many rules. After all, in the Black Tower's code of law, anything related to world stripping is absolutely forbidden. I won't explain the specific reasons. In short, if the tomb monarch wants to separate the corpse kingdom, he has to do it secretly. With that said, Han Dong suddenly understood. That's why he lost control. He deliberately lost control to reduce the connection with the Black Tower and secretly carried out the world stripping. The chain connecting the corpse kingdom and the surrounding floating islands is a link that symbolizes the integrity of the world, right? Once the chain is broken, the corpse kingdom will complete its ascension. You must have the means to immediately eliminate all the loss of control after the corpse kingdom ascends and return the world to a normal state. At that time, what's done can't be undone. Coupled with your explanation, the Black Tower should also pursue the matter. That's more or less what I mean, but this matter is still relatively difficult to carry out. Han Dong asked with a puzzled expression. I still don't understand. I still don't understand. Why would Senior give an ordinary person such a chance? Although it won't affect Senior's position in the Black Tower, it will definitely cause some gossip, right? Han Dong actually wanted to ask if the tomb monarch was the illegitimate son of the administrator in the other world. When he climbed the Lunar Goddess Mountain, I happened to be in a good mood and agreed to his request. The tomb monarch also climbed up here? That's right. That kid's limbs were a little weaker than yours back then. It took him 7 days and 7 nights to climb up here. I can't talk about the specifics, otherwise it will affect the subjectivity. Since you've chosen the red pill, continue your journey. With your ability, you might be able to play an important role. If you have the chance to see the tomb monarch kid, give this to him. As he spoke, the administrator gestured with his finger. The glass bottle in Han Dong's pocket, that was used to hold the moon water, was filled with a white liquid. Thank you, Senior. If Senior hadn't told me these things, I might have made a mistake in judgment and walked on the opposite side of the tomb monarch. At that time, things would have become very troublesome. This information is equivalent to your mountaineering reward. Don't thank me. After all, I have my own selfish motives, haha. As such, the value of Han Dong's mountaineering was fully reflected. Senior, how should I address you? When Han Dong asked this question, he was stunned. The vortex on the administrator's mask began to rotate, and the lines slowly evolved into an italic and curved English capital letter. My code name in the Black Tower is M. Let's call it that. Thank you, Senior M. As he spoke, Han Dong walked toward the edge of the mountain peak, as if he was going to go down the mountain himself. This action surprised the administrator. You're going to climb down by yourself? Han Dong nodded seriously. Yes, I just found out by chance when I was meditating. This kind of mountaineering can greatly improve the floating corpse internal sutra that I'm currently cultivating, and my physical strength has almost recovered, so going down the mountain is no problem. Goodbye, Senior. Creak, creak, creak. The tentacles were already attached to the wall. In a few seconds, Han Dong had already climbed down a distance of dozens of meters. His speed was much faster than climbing the mountain. The administrator stared at the direction where Han Dong left, and then on the mask turned back into the vortex shape. When the tomb monarch ended the conversation with him, he was directly sent down the mountain by the administrator due to his lack of physical strength. What a pity. If he wasn't someone from the Fight Club, I could have trained this kid to be a successor. Unfortunately, this kid is involved with the hybrid demons. If I want to train him to be a successor, he will definitely be targeted by some old-fashioned guys. Forget it. Since it's such an opportunity, I'll let him meet the tomb monarch. It should help and speed up the world stripping. It can also save me one more thing to worry about. Let him develop to the greatest extent. If there is a war in the future, he can play with me. Chapter 1239. Moonlight City. Professor Swollen and the rest had been waiting in the city for days, but there was still no news from Han Dong. However, no one thought about whether Han Dong would die on the mountain. Whether it was the professor, the captive Feng Kuei, or the defeated Frozen Bones, they all believed that Han Dong would not be harmed on the mountain. Mr. Han is back. Han Dong, who was covered in dust and had obvious dark circles under his eyes, walked back slowly along the mountain path in a very tired state. When the professor heard the news, he was the first to rush forward. "My lord, what happened?" Han Dong did not have the energy to say anything. He was too tired. Originally, Han Dong had guessed that the manager would use some method to send him down the mountain. However, after some thought, he still pretended that he was passionate about training and went down the mountain on his own to gain the favor of the manager. Reality proved that it was indeed effective. However, this kind of stubbornness made Han Dong feel very uncomfortable. He had not slept for a total of 5 days and 5 nights. In addition to the high intensity of the climb, he was already in a semi-unconscious state. He relied on his willpower to walk down the mountain path. "Professor, did you get the moon water?" "Yes." After receiving an affirmative answer, Han Dong showed a relieved expression. "I need a long time to rest. Wake me up when we return to the barracks." After that, Han Dong collapsed into the professor's arms and fell into a deep sleep. The professor could not understand what Han Dong had done on the Moon Goddess Mountain to make him so tired. However, from the gaze of the leader, he could tell that it was something good. This sleep was very deep. The body-strengthening effect from climbing the mountain also took effect on the body during sleep. The Wu floating corpse internal scripture was operating on its own under the power of the inner core. It led Han Dong deeper into the realm. This is a dream. Perhaps it was because he had been in the dreamlands. In the state of deep sleep, the brain and the body would merge to create a very realistic dream. Han Dong woke up on a wooden raft. He was floating on a dark sea. The only thing on the raft was a lotus oil lamp. At that moment, the scattered flame could be completely extinguished by the next gust of wind. Under the restriction of the dream, the demonic eye could not be used. Han Dong quickly picked up the oil lamp and forced out a drop of corpse oil from his palm. The flame that was about to extinguish quickly regained its vitality. The area of illumination expanded from 1 m to 10 m. As the situation on the surface of the sea was revealed, Han Dong was shocked. Countless floating corpses without facial features were floating on the sea. Due to the current, they kept pushing the end of the raft. Pushing Han Dong was pushing him deeper into the sea. Faceless, a floating corpse, a deep-sea corpse. Connecting these key pieces of information, Han Dong could basically confirm that during his deep sleep, his brain was having a deep communication with the zombie body. Looks like climbing the mountain is really useful. I didn't expect that this sleep would allow me to enter this state. If I continue to float like this, my mastery of the floating corpse internal scripture may increase further. However, it is not a good thing to go too deep. I don't want the floating corpse internal scripture to take root in my brain. This kind of physical technique is fine as a support, but I don't want it to become my main path. Thinking about this, Han Dong quickly stopped the raft from floating. He picked up the corpses on the sea and piled them on the raft. Due to the floating effect, the raft did not sink due to the piling of corpses. It piled up to a height of more than 10 meters. It was very simple. Han Dong stood at the highest point and jumped down, using the method of falling to get himself out of the dream. If other black zombies knew about this, they would be so angry that they would vomit blood. Han Dong actually took the initiative to give up such a great opportunity. The moment his body collided with the sea, the dream shattered. He woke up. In reality, Han Dong suddenly sat up from the bed due to the shock. His head directly bumped into a soft object. The scene in front of him was quite strange. It was like a bottomless dark ravine. "Mr. Han, you're awake?" A gentle female voice came. It was only then that Han Dong realized the problem and quickly pulled his head back. In front of the bed, a female zombie with a talisman on her forehead and a bun on her head was staring at him with concern. Because Han Dong's body was cold, a steam heater was specially installed in the room. The female zombie in charge of taking care of him took off her shirt because of the high temperature, only wearing a thin undergarment. Moreover, she was also very interested in this young man. "You are Governor Wang's daughter?" Han Dong recognized the other party's identity. It seemed that he had successfully returned to the barrack. "Yes, father specially ordered me to take care of you." Han Dong recalled the soft touch just now and couldn't help but feel a little confused. After all, the zombie's body was very hard. He didn't expect there to be a soft place. It could only be said that the daughter of such a big family, even as a zombie, was well maintained. "Has Governor Wang's leg recovered? Now he can walk normally. You brought back a total of 3 bottles of moon water. If this continues, he will definitely recover. Thank you very much. Mr. Han, please continue to lie in bed. I'll go and heat up a bowl of easily digestible corpse oil for you." As the female zombie was about to jump away, she was immediately caught by Han Dong. "No, take me directly to Governor Wang. I have something important to say." Because of Han Dong's awakening, everyone gathered in Wang Shiheng's private house. The matter of everyone returning to the barracks had been completely suppressed by Wang Shiheng in the name of the governor. No one in the barracks knew. After all, it involved 2 senior officials who were removed from the corpse goo and a high-ranking wanted criminal. When Han Dong put forward his request, Wang Shiheng's face was also ugly. "You took a great risk to go to the depths of the demon territory to ask for the moon water for me. As gratitude, as long as it is something I can do, I will definitely do it for you. But the saint request is really difficult. With my current status, it is very difficult for me to have such an opportunity." Just as everyone was talking halfway, Han Dong's extremely sharp perception suddenly noticed a strange aura mixed in the air. "Governor Wang, there are other visitors? What are you talking about? Your identities can't be exposed now. How can I meet other people?" Han Dong's expression changed. "Someone is coming. Everyone find a way to hide." Everyone immediately pasted the invisibility talisman on their foreheads and hid in different areas of the mansion as quickly as possible. At the same time, dong dong dong, there was a knock on the door. Wang Xing personally went forward to open the door. When he saw the visitor, his expression became a little ugly. The special black gold official robe of the imperial court, the goo bug patch on the chest and the wooden mask on the face were very conspicuous. "I wonder what the assistant minister of the secret ministry is doing in my shabby house?" Chapter 1240. The place Han Dong chose to hide was the compartment where he was previously sleeping and cultivating. The female zombie with her hair tied up in a bun quickly returned. Her face was full of panic. Even the heart-cleansing talisman on her forehead was completely dyed black due to the rising corpse energy in her body. "Mr. Han, the people from the secret department are here. They probably found out that you are here in advance and have already sealed off the entire residence. Even Father can't hold them off for long. It's only a matter of time before they find you. You must think about how to explain the removal of the corpse goo, especially since there's a serious criminal among you." The secret department. Han Dong had heard of this term a long time ago. Once in the oil workshop district, when Zhang Xiaoliang first met Han Dong, he mistook him for an official from the secret department because of the spatial secret technique he used. It was probably a department that specialized in secret techniques. It was very different from the regular 6 ministries. It even had higher authority. The secret department should be a department that specializes in corpse goo. That's why they directly found us. They should have a closer relationship with the Emperor. "Miss Ruoying, please prepare some paper and brushes for me, as many as you have. The secret department should give some face to Governor Wang. There should be enough time." Paper and brushes? Although the female zombie didn't quite understand, she still immediately did as she was told. A stack of rice paper, an ink tray, and several brushes. Squeak! 5 tentacles grew out from the back of Han Dong's head. He picked up the brushes and began to quickly write on the paper with his hands. The female zombie Ruoying watched from the side. Although she knew every word, she couldn't understand them when they were all connected together. She could only roughly tell that Han Dong was writing a manuscript similar to a research report. This kind of writing speed was several times faster than other people copying books. The female zombie was dazzled. Thesis writing was a basic skill for Han Dong. He already had a lot of knowledge and a basic thesis framework in his head. All he needed to do was to combine the information and the framework, and he would be able to write an extremely confusing research paper immediately. In the main hall of the residence, Governor Wang's expression was extremely ugly. The assistant minister of the secret department who came to the door had the emperor's handwritten order. The removal of the corpse goo in the heads of many high-ranking officials had already attracted the attention of the imperial court. Just as the search was about to begin, the wooden door of the cubicle on the first floor opened. Han Dong appeared to be engrossed in his research. He held a stack of rice paper in his hand, as if he was preparing to meet someone. Because he was too focused on the content on the xian paper, he only noticed the tense situation in the hall after walking for a while. Black and gold official robes, goo insignia. Secret department, you're finally here. I am the assistant of alchemist Long Jing Chen Xining. Some time ago, when I was researching zombies, I accidentally discovered some drawbacks of the corpse goo. During the research, he accidentally removed the corpse goo from his brain. Because we still have important cooperation with Governor Wang, Commander Feng Kuei, and Manager Huang of the Ministry of War's Mechanism Department in the barracks, besides researching corpse goo these days, we have also been running about in the depths of the Yao territory for the recovery of Governor Wang's legs. We haven't had time to report this to our superiors. I thought that you would come down and re-equip us with corpse parasite. Han Dong deliberately raised his voice so that everyone in the mansion could hear him. His companions, who were hiding in different rooms, all pretended to be normal as they walked out. Chen Xining glanced at the document in Han Dong's hand and immediately understood the meaning behind it. Han Dong, quickly show your research manuscript to Assistant Minister Yen. Yes. Han Dong respectfully presented the manuscript. It recorded in detail the faceless skull's comprehensive analysis of the corpse goo, as well as Han Dong's detailed improvement plan based on his own understanding of the situation. Assistant Minister of the Secret Department, Yen Bowen. He was a specialist in charge of the creation and management of the corpse goo. When he examined the research report given by Han Dong, his eyes under the wooden mask revealed a strange luster, and he almost cried out in surprise. The value of the manuscript continued to increase while he was reading it. Not only did it record the drawbacks known to the secret department, it also proposed measures to fix the drawbacks from different angles, and even some methods that he had never thought of before. Assistant Minister Yen restrained his excitement and pretended to be calm as he asked, "Was this manuscript completed by Chen Fengshe?" Chen Xining did not know anything about the content of the manuscript, so she quickly explained. No, more than 90% of it was completed by my good friend. With this, Assistant Minister of the Secret Department shifted all his attention to Han Dong. Originally, he was prepared to thoroughly investigate the corpse goo incident with the Emperor's handwritten order, but he no longer cared about the specifics. Since everyone was here, he only needed to reassemble the corpse goo for them. More importantly, the young man who created this research manuscript was the most important. Assistant Minister Yen asked, "Han Dong, you don't seem to belong to any faction in the imperial court?" "Yes. I have always been indebted to Chen Fengshe. I completed the core condensation on my own under the condition that she provided me with materials and a training field. After that, I have been following her and assisting with some of the more troublesome matters. Are you interested in going to the secret department with me? I have to ask Chen Fengshi's opinion. Chen Xining was also in a state of confusion. She couldn't understand how this renowned assistant minister, Yen, could ignore the problem at hand just because of a research manuscript. No matter how she looked at it, there was something wrong with this group of people gathered here. I have no objections. Han Dong is just my friend, not my corpse servant. All right, Han Dong will follow me to the secret department. You all should return to the imperial court as soon as possible and reassemble the corpse goo. Yes. The incident happened suddenly. However, Han Dong could only beat them at their own game and change his path. After his experience on Mount Yueshan, his main goal was very clear: obtain the right to meet the Emperor and meet the Tomb Lord. Since Governor Wang was in a difficult position, he would take the opportunity to go to the secret department and obtain the right to meet the Emperor through the secret department. Governor Wang's favor would be kept here. When he returned to his position as the Minister of War, it would naturally be useful. Assistant Minister Yen, I am also very good friends with Manager Huang from the Ministry of Work. He will return to the Central Ministry of Works after some time. Why don't I go with him? The secret department is different from the other 6 departments. It is a special department directly under the Emperor. Every time the secret department recruits a new person, they must be personally vetted by the Emperor. Only those who are completely loyal to the imperial court and the Emperor can become a secret officer. This manuscript will be your stepping stone. Therefore, I have to personally lead you there. I suggest you finish whatever you have to do quickly. I can wait for you here for an hour. All right. When he heard that he could meet the Emperor in advance, Han Dong's face lit up. Although this kind of meeting did not belong to meeting the Emperor but was equivalent to a qualification check, as long as he could get close to the Emperor, Han Dong's goal would be achieved. Chapter 1241. Assistant Minister Yen didn't give him much time. Han Dong said goodbye to Governor Wang Xing first. He also made it clear that he would repay the favor of Moon Water in the future. At the same time, he would also arrange a normal identity for Luo Gaocheng, who had contributed to this incident. Miss Chen, your identity should be restored very soon. When the time comes, let's meet again in the Imperial Court. I still have some matters to discuss with Manager Huang, so I'll have to go now. Okay. She stared at Han Dong's receding figure. Chen Xining's eyes flashed with a strange expression. Perhaps she was shocked by Han Dong's performance just now, or perhaps she had other thoughts. Congratulations, Mr. Han. You were selected by the Ministry of Secret Affairs. Your future is limitless. If you need any help in the future, please let me know. Feng Kuei, who was covered in black meat and had iron rings, always looked very honest in front of Han Dong. Feng Kuei, come here. This kind of command directly affected Feng Kuei's brain. An irresistible force pulled him close to Han Dong. Smack. He placed his palm on the back of Feng Kuei's head and extracted the essence of the mad laughter. If he didn't extract the mad laughter virus from Feng Kuei's head, there would be trouble when he reassembled the corpse goo. The master-servant relationship was removed, but the experience during this period was still stored in Feng Kuei's mind. When he realized something was wrong and wanted to ask, Han Dong was already gone. Inside the cubicle, the doctor stood in front of him with a respectful expression and carefully noted down the series of instructions given by Han Dong. In short, this incident should end early. I will push forward the progress of this incident. Doctor, you will focus on the huge project that the Ministry of Works is preparing. Help the corpse country to achieve the results they want as much as possible. Then, analyze the mechanical planting technology in private and try to bring it back to the manor and apply it to the ghouls. If you need to pay points to bring back this technology, I will take care of it. Okay. Hearing that there was a chance to bring back the technology here, the doctor was also very happy. Nothing could make him more excited than doing research. After settling the trivial matters around him, Han Dong immediately followed Yen Bowen, the Assistant Minister of the Ministry of Secret Affairs, up the chain at the center of the Ministry of War. With the experience of climbing Mount Moon Goddess, climbing the chains was a piece of cake for him. He relied purely on his physical body to climb up quickly without using any abilities related to the floating corpse internal sutra. Yen Bowen, the Assistant Minister of the Secret Department, used a very strange technique called air stepping. Every time he jumped, he would land on invisible stairs in the air and easily jump up. While they were climbing, Han Dong tried to ask Lord Yen if every new secret officer in the secret ministry is personally examined by His Majesty, then the number of secret officers should be very small. Yes, there are currently 13 secret officers. Even the lowest secret officer is a secondary grade 3 official. This manuscript of yours is very valuable. If the method to fix the defect in it is useful, you will have made a great contribution. How much time did you spend on this manuscript? Han Dong naturally wouldn't reply to 10 minutes, honestly. I was very interested when I met Chun Fongshi a long time ago and learned about corpse voodoo. In total, I spent about half a year. Half a year, is it so short? As long as you can pass His Majesty's examination and officially become a secret officer, I will introduce you to the secret ministry and quickly take over matters related to corpse voodoo. Corpse voodoo is the foundation of the nation's fate. We must ensure that the nation's fate operates normally so that our great plan can be realized. Under Assistant Minister Yan's lead, Han Dong set foot in the imperial city for the first time. The prosperity of this place was not something the surrounding areas could compare to. The zombies that came and went on the streets were all imperial court officials who wore black gauze hats and official robes. Their offices were all located in the imperial city. Of course, it was just as Han Dong had guessed. The imperial city had a very clear distinction between inside and outside. These officials who lived outside were, after all, just outsiders. Most of them wouldn't even have the chance to meet His Majesty once. It was very likely that they wouldn't have the chance to set foot in the imperial palace even if they contributed their whole lives to the imperial court. This is the outer wall of the imperial palace? The towering red wall was almost as tall as the walls of the sacred city. Every 100 meters there was a golden hoop pillar as a link. The imperial palace is a forbidden area that all zombies in the country dream of entering. As long as you can set foot in it, it means that you have received His Majesty's approval. The construction of the kingdom is closely related to it. You are the secret officer that I personally recommended. Treat this examination as the most important battle of your life. Okay. The word most important was not enough for Han Dong. After circling around several streets in the imperial city, they finally arrived at the main gate of the imperial palace. It was guarded by many soldiers from the Ministry of War. This group of fierce-looking guards at the gate immediately revealed a timid and fearful expression when they saw Assistant Minister Yen. They immediately opened the gate for him. Come on in. You might not get used to it for a while. The moment Han Dong stepped into the imperial palace, thick corpse energy rushed toward him like a tide, trying to push Han Dong out of the gate. At the same time, the hanging sun was also covered by corpse energy. Darkness shrouded the entire imperial palace and never dissipated. This is... Han Dong looked into the depths of the imperial palace. A thick, almost completely black corpse energy was rising into the sky. However, most of it would stay in the imperial palace. Only a small portion would flow out. Is this the source of the loss of control? Where did this corpse energy that can change the nature of the world come from? Assistant Minister Yen showed a look of admiration when he saw that Han Dong did not retreat or show any fear on his face. It was his first time entering the imperial palace. "Let's go. Come with me to see His Majesty. You seem to be in good condition." The deeper they went into the imperial palace, the thicker the corpse energy became. There was even a sense of oppression, as if they were walking among a mountain of corpses. Taichi Gate. Assistant Minister Yen led Han Dong to the gate. Immediately, two zombies with thick murderous aura descended from the sky. They had taken at least 1,000 lives with their hands. Their eyes were sharp as if they could see through one's thoughts. He wore a skull mask with a dark golden luster and a unique black flying fish costume. These two were the Imperial Guards directly under the Emperor's command, the Imperial Guard. Both of them were truly powerful zombies, 1 in a million. "Assistant Minister Yen, why are you heading to Taichi Palace?" "To report the results of the recent investigation of the Corpse Gu incident and to promote a new secret officer." "Please." Since Han Dong was an unfamiliar face, the two embroidered uniform guards accompanied him the entire time. When he stepped on the 1008 steps in front of Taichi Palace, Han Dong could clearly feel the corpse energy flowing between the steps. It was touching and recognizing his body. Assistant Minister Yen and the two embroidered uniform guards were very surprised by Han Dong's performance when he was climbing the steps. It was his first time climbing the steps, but everything was normal. When they first came here, they had stopped many times and felt like their bodies were drained of energy. They had almost failed to complete the step. Han Dong's abnormality made the embroidered uniform guards pay more attention to him. However, just as he stepped on the last step, before Assistant Minister Yen could report to the palace, and before the two embroidered uniform guards could further examine Han Dong, a thick and heavy voice sounded. "Long Ming, Conk, you can leave. Assistant Minister Yen, bring this secret officer in to see me." Chapter 1242. They were well aware of the Emperor's condition. Usually, no matter how urgent the matter was, no matter how close the officials were to the Emperor, they had to go through layers of checks before they could enter the inner palace. It was the same for Assistant Minister Yen and the two embroidered uniform guards. They were well aware of how complicated the process would be if they wanted to see the Emperor. But this process was necessary. The Emperor, who sat in Taiji Palace, was the core of the world. If anything went wrong, it would be difficult for the entire world to operate. But for Han Dong, who had just arrived at the palace, the Emperor took the initiative to skip the checks and let Assistant Minister Yen lead Han Dong to the inner palace. This not only made the embroidered uniform guards worried. Even Assistant Minister Yen, who had introduced him, was a little flustered. He retracted his foot that was about to step into the threshold. "Your Majesty, your body, it's fine. Come in." This vigorous voice, like a dragon's roar, came from the corpse aura that was constantly seeping out. There was an invisible pressure in the voice itself. It was as if there were countless corpses hanging around them, conveying the Emperor's words at the same time. "Yes." Assistant Minister Yen did not dare to be negligent and quickly reminded him. "Han Dong, when you walk in Taiji Palace, you must stay by my side. You are not allowed to act on your own accord. His Majesty's condition is very special. To be precise, he is in a weak state. So, if I detect any strange movements from you, I will suppress you." "Understood. Come in." Although Han Dong was a little confused about what a weak state was, he did not have the chance to ask Assistant Minister Yen since he had already stepped into Taiji Palace. He only needed to follow him in and he would know when the time came. The moment he stepped into the threshold, a field quickly enveloped Han Dong. Compared to the corpse aura field that covered the entire palace, the inside of Taiji Palace was the truly terrifying area. A field that can affect reality. Is it really a mythical body? The dazzling inner palace was no longer there. It was covered by the field that interfered with reality. The area Han Dong stepped into was more like a corpse palace. The ground was covered with a layer of stiff skin that was even harder than steel. The skin was sewn together with needles and threads, and there was a large amount of black hair growing in some areas. The pillars in the palace were made of corpses of zombies. A large number of their limbs were hanging outside, and corpse oil was dripping from their long and sinister black nails. Zombie skulls were embedded into the walls of the palace, and they all wore expressions of extreme pain. Some of the heads of the zombies had been cut horizontally to serve as lampstands. There were several black candles that could burn indefinitely by extracting corpse oil. Just as I expected, it's a mythical body. Tomb really can't contain such a powerhouse. There were originally only two paths left for the Tomb Lord. First, accept recruitment from a higher world, go to a brand new world, and become a member. Second, the upgrade of one's own world. The Tomb Lord obviously rejected the first option. At the same time, on the basis of the second item, I plan to separate my own kingdom, cut off the various restrictions of the Tomb World, and create a brand new world that belongs to me. Han Dong could faintly feel a kind of suction force as he walked through the palace. It was a kind of suction force that only belonged to the strong. In some ways, the ruler of Corpse Country and Han Dong were the same kind of people. At the center of Taiji Palace, a huge, dark curtain covered the central area in a square shape. Corpse energy kept flowing out from the bottom of the curtain like a tide. Obviously, the ruler of Corpse Country, the source of the loss of control, and the manipulator who caused the world to be severed was inside. Even though he could not see the Emperor's appearance clearly, he was already meeting the Emperor. Assistant Minister Yen was 10 meters away from the curtain. He knelt down on both knees and took off the wooden mask on his face, revealing elegant blue hair and a fresh and handsome face. Your Majesty, this young man is Han Dong. He's a genius I met when I was dealing with the Corpse Goo incident. Without the help of the secret ministry, he started researching Corpse Goo on his own and obtained a research manuscript that I think is extremely valuable. I brought him here to meet the Emperor to verify his identity and crown him as a secret officer. The voice of 100 corpses immediately came from inside the curtain. I'll make arrangements for the secret officer. Assistant Minister Yen, you've saved me a lot of trouble by devoting yourself to the research of Corpse Goo. You've worked hard all these years. Corpse Goo is the fate of the country. The meaning of my existence is to manage the fate of the country for Your Majesty. Compared to the sacrifices Your Majesty has made for our country, my small matter is nothing. If Han Dong's research manuscript can be implemented normally, the fate of the country will be further stabilized. All right, you can leave now. I want to talk to this young man alone. Yen Bowen was still immersed in the Emperor's praise a second ago, but now he was stunned. Your Majesty, this is the first time I've met Han Dong. I brought him here because I admire his talent, but I don't know much about his temperament. For safety reasons, I request that he stay here. Although Yen Bowen was completely worried about the Emperor, as soon as he finished speaking, his whole body was immediately bound by an irresistible corpse energy and forcefully pushed out. The next second, Assistant Minister Yen was sent out of Taiji Palace and almost fell down the stairs. He was still kneeling and trembling with a dumbfounded expression. The embroidered uniform guard waiting at the door also hurriedly asked, Assistant Minister Yen, why did you come out? Where's that young man? I don't know. His Majesty is acting strangely today. He wants to meet that young man alone and even wants to drive me out. We can only wait at the door. If anything strange happens, we'll immediately go to Taiji Palace to provide assistance. Who is this young man you brought back? I don't know either. Assistant Minister Yen had an awkward expression. Inside Taiji Palace, after Assistant Minister Yen was forcefully removed, only Han Dong was left in front of the curtain. Come in. All right. When Han Dong reached out to touch the curtain in front of him, he felt as if he was moving a mountain of corpses. Even if he summoned Tugu, it would probably be difficult to lift the curtain. Since brute force was difficult to break through, he switched to skill. Circulating the floating corpse internal sutra, he followed the corpse energy on the surface of the curtain and flowed his body into it. In the next second, Han Dong easily reached the inside of the curtain and achieved the true meaning of meeting the Emperor. The scene in front of him stunned Han Dong. Although he had made many assumptions in advance, Han Dong had never expected such a scene. At the same time, he also understood what Assistant Minister Yen meant by weak. It was a black wooden dragon throne modified from some kind of 1,000-year-old coffin. The monarch of the Corpse Kingdom, Tomb Lord, was fixed on it. His pitch-black body was like a scorched shell, and there were silver needles the length of a finger. The end of each silver needle was connected to a corpse oil conduit, and high-purity corpse essence flowed into his body through the silver needles. The refined corpse oil came from the oil mill district. After it was transported to the imperial city, it was purified by the corpse essence refining device underground. The Tomb Lord's body was the loss of control generator. The continuous injection of corpse essence, coupled with the unique corpse collection, a world annihilation corpse manual that the Tomb Lord cultivated, produced a kind of death aura that could cut off his connection with the Black Tower and cause the world's corpses to change. It was precisely so. The Tomb Lord was in a weak state and could not leave the imperial palace. It was precisely so. The conditions for meeting the Emperor were extremely harsh. Even the Tomb Lord's confidant had to be inspected before he could step into Taiji Palace. It was precisely so. The management of the Corpse Kingdom required the use of the corpse goo, which was similar to enslavement, to ensure that there would not be any changes led by zombies in the Corpse Kingdom during the separation of the world. The Tomb Lord was now focused on the matter of the world's upgrade to ensure that the entire process was foolproof. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.